Chapter 700. It turned out that the ice under Han Fei's butt had been melted and a big hole had been made. But this was still not enough. Han Fei needed more power to stimulate the regeneration ability of the indestructible body art. Han Fei swallowed hard. In the past half an hour, even with the regeneration power of the indestructible body art, 70% of his essence blood had been drawn. And it wasn't over yet. Let's do it. With my current physique, I should be able to resist that thing. With a thought from Han Fei, a white jade box appeared in Han Fei's hand. When the box was opened, a red stone appeared. Suddenly, there was a raging flame around him, and Han Fei was burned in it. This red flame origin crystal was obtained from the Fire Cloud Cave when he was still in the Level 2 fishery. At that time, Han Fei and the other four barely got it with the help of the Blue Sea Wandering Dragonbone. At this moment, Han Fei grabbed the red flame origin crystal with one hand. Suddenly, the indestructible body art was strengthened by a level, and Han Fei's body was badly mutilated after a long time. Anyway, when Han Fei found that there were only 10 ultra-quality spiritual stones left in Forge the Universe, the essence blood in his body was no longer consumed. Han Fei quickly stuffed the red flame origin crystal into the box. However, the flame intensity of the red flame origin crystal at this moment was not as high as at the beginning. Just like the conservation of energy, endless heat was used to accelerate the indestructible body art. The power of the red flame origin crystal was gradually being stripped away. Putting away the red flame origin crystal, Han Fei opened his eyes. Red light spurted out of his eyes again, and it took a long time for his eyes to return to normal. In front of him, an extremely pure blue sword floated in front of him. With a thought, Han Fei controlled Snowmorn and slashed casually. Puff! In an instant, the spiritual energy in Han Fei's body was completely drained, and he vomited a mouthful of blood. Fortunately, he had the follow-up spiritual energy to replenish it. Otherwise, he would have been sucked dry just like that. Han Fei immediately cramped, and the stored spiritual energy crazily poured into his body. After a few dozen breaths, he wearily propped himself up with his hands. When Han Fei crawled out of the pit, he discovered, to his shock, that a sword mark extended all the way from his feet to the outside of the ice palace. That 100-meter-tall ice gate was lying on the ground outside, on the icy road. Sword marks had been left 800 meters away, creating an icy ravine. Gulp! Han Fei swallowed. Is this the power of the sea-quelling bizarre treasure? Han Fei swallowed crazily. Isn't this 2F** king strong? He had really just casually slashed at it just now. In the end, he had destroyed the ice palace and created such a huge crack. Such destructive power made Han Fei's blood freeze. Oh my god! Han Fei was completely dumbfounded. He had been using the embroidery needle all the time. Apart from being indestructible, heavy, and able to grow bigger, there were no other advantages to speak of. Moreover, he had to hold the embroidery needle with his own hand. You want to use your mind to control it? That was simply impossible. However, Snowmorn was unbelievably powerful. Just this casual sword strike was even more powerful than the sacrificing fist seal. After all, even the sacrificing punch failed to shatter the ice gate when it was fully unleashed. However, Snowmorn shattered the gate after only one attack. Also, the sword aura extended more than 800 meters away, which suggested its power. Also, Snowmorn didn't have a weapon spirit at all at this moment. If a super weapon spirit was sealed in Snowmorn, the consequences would be unimaginable. He would probably be sucked to death instantly. Horrified, Han Fei hurried to put Snowmorn back. He couldn't afford to use it right now. If he used it casually, he would really be at the mercy of others. Besides, as an intermediate hanging fisher, if he exerted such amazing power, it would be impossible for him to survive. It was not hard to imagine what would happen if he unleashed such shocking power. Crack! 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 The moment the ice palace was pierced through, the array foundation under the palace was broken. The enormous palace was full of cracks, and the ice above his head was falling apart. Han Fei quickly rushed out of the ice palace. Of course, the dead half-mermaid was also stored in Forge the Universe by Han Fei. After all, this guy's body was full of treasures. A divine battle suit and a divine harpoon were definitely more valuable than ultra-quality spiritual weapons. A moment later, ice fell from the door, and the entire palace collapsed with a loud rumble. The moment the palace collapsed, spiritual energy surged crazily. Then, the mist gradually dispersed. When Han Fei could see the surroundings clearly again, he found that they were still in the underground palace. However, the location where everyone appeared was on the surface of the ice. The gravity here seemed to have disappeared. The huge steels in the sky had all fallen down, smashing everywhere. Many of the sculptures had been smashed over. Han Fei, are you all right? Tengu appeared 1,000 meters away from Han Fei. However, he was dripping with blood, as if he had just been through a fierce battle. Apart from Tengu, Meng Yi was protecting Su Hongye in the array. The two of them were squatting on the ground. Ning Dong was carrying Yi Xiangxiang in one hand and Zhao Jiai in the other, emitting a bloody vibe. Qin Aochen's muscles were bulging, and he seemed to be fighting someone. It was quite strange for him to suddenly return to the underground palace. Gong Yuehan's clothes were torn, and her arms were dyed red with blood, but her face was still cold. On the other side, one of the half-mermaids was frozen into ice and lying on the ground. He seemed to be dead. Among the other four, 3 were seriously injured and covered in blood. Only the girl in the golden battlesuit was standing proudly, pointing her harpoon at Han Fei and the others. Apart from Han Fei and the others, Chen Chen, who had been possessed, and a half-mermaid were standing together and looking at them vigilantly. Ning Dong said, Han Fei, healing technique. Han Fei stepped forward and cast a divine healing technique on Tengu. Then, he cast a healing technique on Yi Xiangxiang and Zhao Jiai. Han Fei was stunned. Are there only so few of us left? Meng Yi removed the array and walked over. We somehow fell into a super array just now. Someone must have broken the array. That's why we showed up. Zhao Jiai was stretching his body with the divine healing technique. Hearing this, he couldn't help but ask, "You're the best at arrays here. Didn't you break the array?" Meng Yi looked at Han Fei as if asking. Han Fei said casually, "You know that I'm not as good at arrays as you are. However, breaking arrays doesn't necessarily mean that I know arrays. It's possible that I broke the array by force." Tengu said solemnly, "At the beginning, someone pretended to be one of us. Did you see that?" At this moment, although everybody was approaching, everyone kept a distance from each other. Tengu even spoke to Han Fei telepathically, "Where do you usually keep the valuable things in our family?" Han Fei replied with a smile, "In the small cliff cave in the house. What's the name of the body-refining combat technique you left me?" Tengu grinned. "Mystic body technique." Han Fei and Tengu confirmed their relationship. However, it might not be the case for others. Han Fei didn't trust them now. Treatment was treatment, and spiritual energy replenishment was spiritual energy replenishment. But to talk about trust now? After the Frostmourne incident, the only person Han Fei trusted now was Tengu. Tengu must be the same. Gong Yuehan said, "Keep your distance before you go out." Zhao Jiai smiled and suddenly said, "Everybody must have been impersonated. I don't know if it's someone else. But I'm sure it's not old Ning. This guy is too tough. He killed a half-mermaid alone and saved me and Yi Xiangxiang." Meng Yi asked, "How's Yi Xiangxiang?" The corner of Ning Dong's mouth shivered. "He ran into the possessed Chen Chen, but he couldn't defeat him." Meng Yi pondered for a moment. "I know you're confused. However, there's one thing that hasn't changed, that is, we're all human beings now. So, the 4 half-mermaids, the possessed Chen Chen, and the other half-mermaid are our enemies." Qin Aochen said gloomily, I'm going to meet the two possessed monsters. Gong Yuan followed. Count me in. At this moment, everybody was recovering. The half-mermaids, the old monsters, and their own side were all recovering. Zhao Jiai was heavily injured. Therefore, Han Fei took on the responsibility of supplying spiritual energy and healing everybody's wounds. Zhao Jiai glanced at him. I'm sure it's not Brother Duan. Haha. Anyway, it's him. You're not possessed either. Han Fei grinned. If I were possessed, I would have killed you. Why would I heal you? Han Fei's greatest output of spiritual energy was given to Tang Gu and Ning Dong. The moment their spiritual energy recovered, they looked at each other. Suddenly, they charged at the half-mermaids. They must have fought a lot in the snow-ground array. Even the male half-mermaid in a golden battle suit was heavily injured at this moment. The female half-mermaid was about to burst out, when the male half-mermaid suddenly grabbed her and threw her to the entrance of the cave far away. Get out. Go back alive and tell everyone about the prehistoric relic. The female half-mermaid roared and turned to leave quickly. She had suffered a crushing defeat this time. Before she left, she glanced at Han Fei and Meng Yi. They suffered a great loss this time. The first time was because of Han Fei. That B******'s wrong guidance caused them to lose nearly 10 people at the beginning. The second time, she thought it was Meng Yi who set up arrays and poisons to ambush them in the snow. More than half of the half-mermaids were killed or wounded in the ice road, so she remembered them. If she knew that it was Han Fei who proposed the second ambush, how would she feel now? Of course, she probably wouldn't be able to see Han Fei again, because Han Fei was using Duan Zhang's face. The two heavily wounded half-mermaid heavenly talents, on the other hand, charged at Tang Gu and Ning Dong crazily. The male half-mermaid in golden armor, on the other hand, simply rushed to the altar at the center without caring about the safety of his companions. Su Hongye, on the other hand, looked at where the female half-mermaid escaped. I'll go after that woman. Meng Yi said, come back. You're no match for her. Meng Yi glanced at Han Fei and thought to himself, aren't you going to stop that woman from running? Han Fei glanced at the injured people, as if to say, look at them. They're all wounded and disabled. Do you think I have time to stop them? The third chapter. I wish everyone a youthful and everlasting youth, a carefree and unfettered time of warmth. End of this chapter. Chapter 701. Han Fei had his own plan. If he chased after it, there was an 80% chance that he could kill the half-mermaid. However, the other party was one of the leading half-mermaid heavenly talents, who had an immortal seal. If the half-mermaid didn't want to fight and only wanted to run away, Han Fei wouldn't be able to kill it in a short time. Unless he used Snowmorn again, he would not be able to do it. But Han Fei really didn't dare to use it now. He didn't know if he could recover after using it. More importantly, if the sword spirit in Snowmorn wasn't the master of the Snow God's temple, then the 30-meter-tall phantom on the altar not far away should be the master of the Snow God's temple. Since the sword spirit asked him to destroy the Snow God's temple, there must be something on the altar. If he left, how could he compete for it? Besides, Han Fei thought, even if one sea demon escaped, so what? According to the sword spirit, the Snow God's temple could be destroyed. The spiritual energy here had been drained, and he had obtained the array and the soul-splitting technique. All he needed was the thing on the altar. As long as he got that thing, the Snow God's temple would be destroyed. Why should he care if a sea demon escaped? In fact, Han Fei and the others didn't need to react at all. Outside, on the sea, the half-mermaids were already furious. They're all dead. Only Yu Ling and Yu Bei are left. Those damned humans. There must be even stronger heavens chosen hidden in their ranks. Liang Tian's expression was also extremely ugly. On the human side, 11 life tablets had cracked, which meant that there were only 9 people left. This time, 20 heavenly talents had been transferred here. All of them were extremely talented. 11 people had died in a secret realm. How terrifying was this secret realm? It was not hard to imagine. In the field, Tangu said to Han Fei via voice transmission, "You go to the altar." Yi Xiangxiang had just woken up and was swallowing pills. She glanced at Han Fei. "Compete for treasures. At this point, we can't let the half-mermaid get away with it." Han Fei nodded and stepped on the ground, covering himself with a wind travel array. At the same time, he activated the majestic mystic spell, and the 64-dimensional ichthyosaur dance simulated the sea racing technique, directly rushing toward those densely packed statues. He didn't plan to take a detour. He was going to ram his way through. The male half-mermaid started faster than Han Fei. Therefore, at this moment, he was already more than 800 meters into the statue area. Moreover, he was still accelerating, still flying. Bang bang bang! In front of Han Fei, the statues were smashed into pieces by his rampage. The half-mermaid roared. He turned around to take a look, and in the next second, a thick purple light erupted from his body. Then, a purple lobster that was nearly 20 meters long appeared in the statue. The lobster's entire body was purple, and there were sparkling spots of light on its shell. With a casual swing of its huge pincers, 7 or 8 statues were crushed. A string of information emerged in Han Fei's eyes. Name: Amethyst Lobster, Yu Bei's associated spirit. Introduction: mutated from the red crystal lobster, it has extremely strong defense and destructive power. Its speed is extremely fast, and the force of its pincers can reach millions of kilograms. Level 46 quality, exotic, mutated, contains spiritual energy greater than 6,225 points. Food: omnivorous combat skills, purple crystal body, contains soul power 1, 594. Han Fei's face changed slightly. No wonder this guy could survive until now. Just now, Tang Ji's enemy should be this guy. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't be able to resist the power of the white dragon feather lobster at all. But this half-mermaid blocked it and still had strength to spare. Han Fei immediately roared, "Attach!" In an instant, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp and little fatty were attached to him. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Among the statues, black chains moved like snake. From time to time, they rolled up a statue and smashed it at the purple gold lobster. At this moment, Han Fei, in the eyes of others, was a monster with 9 chains dancing wildly in the air. And he himself, like a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus, shattered all the statues wherever he went. Behind him, Ning Dong and Tang Go had already killed the 2 half-mermaids who were already seriously injured. And the 2 old guys who had possessed him, the half-mermaid, were fighting Chen Aochen. Chen Chen also rushed into the group of statues. However, he did not rush in the direction of Han Fei and Yu Bei. Gong Yuehan was chasing him. This woman stepped in the air, holding a long sword in her hand, and the illusion of an azure dragon appeared. Chen Chen roared, "The Snow God's temple is not a place for you to mess around. You'll all die here." As Chen Chen roared, a flying sword in his hand was shot at a piece of ice jade on the altar. At the same time, he suddenly floated in the air, and his body suddenly exploded. A weird soul power swept across the entire area of statues. Gong Yuehan knew that it was not good and immediately warned, "Something is wrong with the statues." At the moment when Chen Chen blew himself up, the statues seemed to be alive, and their eyes beamed with a blue light. The statues. They were resurrected. Tangu roared, and spiritual energy burst out from his arms. With a boom, he charged into the group of statues. Ning Dong shouted, "Gong Yuehan, come back!" Meng Yi set up the array. Chen Aochen had gone crazy at this moment. His fists were so fierce that he had already pressed the possessed half-mermaid to the ground. Half of its body had almost been blown up by him. The half-mermaid smiled miserably. "It's too late to break the seal after such a long time. Otherwise, how can you juniors defeat us?" Boom! The half-mermaid also blew itself up, and Chen Aochen was directly blown into the sky. An amulet appeared in front of him and barely blocked the blow. Cough. Chen Aochen vomited a mouthful of blood and stuffed a mouthful of pills into his mouth. Before he completely landed, he had already charged at the central altar. At this moment, except for the half-mermaid, he was the only one left. However, the treasure was probably on the altar. None of them were selfless people. Wouldn't it belong to whoever snatched it? Yi Xiangxiang recovered a bit of her strength. Biting a spiritual pill in her mouth, she suddenly opened her eyes. I'm going to the altar. After that, she jumped and flashed, and Yi Xiangxiang had already appeared in the area of statues. However, at this moment, the area of statues was full of devils. Although the stone golems didn't seem very strong, they were still very powerful when they were controlled by the two old monsters with the soul-splitting technique. In particular, Chun Chen's previous blow at the altar seemed to have activated a certain array. Boundless murderous aura emerged from the area of statues and flooded into the bodies of those statues. Oh! Hum! Kacha! Attacks that were as strong as those of hanging fishers burst out. Yu Bei was about to reach the edge of the altar, but he was surrounded by hundreds of statues. In his eyes, some of the statues were still launching attacks at this moment. Bam! 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 Every time the 9-star chains attacked, a statue would be pierced. The 9 chains, with 9 statues hanging on them, were sweeping crazily. Standing in Meng Gi's defense array, Su Hongya looked at the scene in shock. So, you must be the top heavenly talents who have been hiding, right? As a spirit gatherer, Zhao Jiai was lost for words. Exactly. All the members of Old Meng's team are still alive. Also, Gong Yuehan, Duan Jiang. Who are they exactly? They're so strong, but they pretend to be regular members? Gong Yuehan said casually, give me spiritual energy. I'll go over. Su Hongye and Zhao Jiai were both stunned. You'll go over? Wait, the statues are all alive. How are you going to go over? Gong Yuehan glanced at him. Hurry up. Zhao Jiai smiled bitterly. He thought that he was strong enough as one of the captains of the 4 squads. However, at this moment, he realized that any of the captains here was unbelievably strong. Even Su Hongye's combat ability was extremely high. Or rather, it wasn't luck that he had survived to this moment. At the front, Han Fei was attacked one after another. He didn't dodge with the 108 Desolate God Body or the evasion technique of the Tianfei sect. He was fighting for time. Those attacks weren't weak, but they couldn't shake him. It was the same for Yu Bei. He could only charge forward unstoppably because he was wearing a divine battle suit. But what about Han Fei? He was wearing an ultra-quality battle suit and even resisted all the attacks with his body? At this moment, he was approaching quickly and was only 200 meters away from him. At this moment, the two of them were only 2,000 meters away from the altar. Han Fei's eyes were cold. He suddenly punched out and launched the sacrificing punch again. However, the punch was not aimed at Yu Bei, but at a mystic light that was darting from the altar. Yu Bei took action at the same time, not daring to be careless. His body was burning, and his golden harpoon emitted dazzling golden light to block the weird mystic light too. Not just the two of them, but everyone who stepped into the statues this time was stared at by a mystic light. Seeing this, Yi Xiangxiang's doppelganger appeared and was hit. In fact, her real body had already surpassed her clone. After only one attack, Yi Xiangxiang was flung back and landed outside the arena. Then, she simply sat on the ground, with beads of sweat rolling off her head. Tengu roared, "Dragon Soul Overlord Body!" A white dragon swallowed dragon flames and charged forward. Chen Aochen roared and punched out. Then, he blocked it with his fists, and his amulet flashed. Zhao Jiai was dumbfounded. Is this the power of a hanging fisher? Are they all F***king hidden fishers in disguise? Su Hongye opened her mouth. They're so strong. Han Fei drank a mouthful of candle dragon blood, and the 9-star chains had already locked the edge of the altar. With a swish, Han Fei surpassed Yu Bei at a high speed. Han Fei turned around and grinned. A dense mist burst out from the void. Then, tides surged, and Yu Bei was surrounded by the combination of Poison God, Infinity Water, and Poison King Smoke. Han Fei sneered. Hey, why are you running so fast? Are you going to be reincarnated? Fourth update. I wish everyone, your eyes are bright, and the road ahead is without wind or waves. End of this chapter. Chapter 702. Yu Bei went crazy. He could resist the mist and the water blades, but he couldn't resist the invisible poisonous smoke at all. Although the divine battle suit on his body blocked the infinity water blades, he still felt that his internal organs were rolling and his stomach was aching. However, he still felt his internal organs churning, and his stomach was in so much pain that it felt like it was about to explode. Standing on the steps of the altar, Han Fei only took one step up. What happened on the steps into the sea last time was still deeply engraved in his head. So, Han Fei was very cautious at this moment. He was even ready to expose the Overlord. But, strangely, nothing seemed to have happened. Han Fei stepped out of the coiled turtle array and the six spirits' armor, and the octopus behind him was staring at Yu Bei. As for the infinity water, I won't withdraw it. Just prepare to vomit and have diarrhea and die of exhaustion. Meng Yi said telepathically, be careful. Tengu said, be careful. Han Fei waved his hand and walked up to the altar in a few steps. There was an array on the altar that he couldn't understand. Han Fei didn't walk in but simply looked up from outside the array. The long dress of the enormous human-shaped phantom was fluttering, which made Han Fei's heart flutter. If I run to the center of the array and look up, wouldn't I be able to see everything? He wondered if the master of the Snow God's temple was in the habit of wearing tights. However, when Han Fei's eyes fell on the eyes of the woman's phantom, he was surprised to find that the pair of eyes was staring at him. Shoot! Han Fei subconsciously took a step back. He really didn't like the people of the Snow God's temple at all. Not good. In the next second, Han Fei seemed to be frozen and couldn't move at all. A strange fragrance crawled into his nose as if it were right next to him. Han Fei couldn't turn his head, but in Little Fatty's eyes, he saw a waterfall of green hair that was dangling on his shoulder. Ha ha ha! Han Fei took a deep breath. He struggled to move his eyes, only to see a delicate face smiling at him. The head's chin was against his shoulder. The fragrance that seeped into one's heart was coming from the woman beside him. It could also be coming from her hair. Suddenly, Han Fei felt that his body was slightly tightened. Looking down, she saw a pair of jade-like hands wrapped around her waist and hugged it. Gulp! Han Fei swallowed and felt that his tears were about to fall. What the hell was going on? Han Fei slightly grinned. Hi! In Han Fei's sight, Yu Bei was still struggling in the infinity water. Tengu was still rushing left and right, and Gong Yuehan, who was furthest away, was already floating in the air. At this time, Han Fei didn't dare to move. Why was there a woman behind him? No one else reacted? Where did this woman come from? How was he able to appear behind her without making a sound? More importantly, why didn't he feel it when this woman pressed her chin against his shoulder? Something's wrong. Han Fei's body suddenly trembled. It didn't make sense. If there was really someone behind him, then Little Fatty's vision should have been blocked by that person. Why was he still able to see everything in a 360-degree view? Han Fei gasped. Who are you? The woman didn't say anything. Han Fei didn't dare to ask. He simply felt that the woman's hands and face were as cold as ice. After a long time, suddenly, a vague voice came to Han Fei's ears. Why do you have demonic qi as a human being? Han Fei took a deep breath. Would you believe me if I told you that a half-mermaid injected demonic qi into my body when I killed her? The voice that seemed to come from nothingness sighed softly next to Han Fei's ears. Such a strong body and such a thick soul. And the air of Snowmorn. Have you seen that woman? Han Fei was shocked. Yes, I have. Isn't that woman a sea demon? Han Fei felt that the hands that were holding him were slowly moving up from his abdomen, to his stomach, to his chest. Han Fei swallowed hard. The snow god's temple has sunk for countless years. You should be happy that it's back after the Age of Doom. The voice was vague, as if it came from another time and space. But I'm already dead. Hiss. At that moment, Han Fei felt that 10,000 iron-head fish were galloping in his heart. Who am I talking to if you're dead? You're dead physically at best, but your soul is still here, isn't it? Before Han Fei figured out what to say, the woman's hands had already touched his face. It was freezing. That extremely low voice said faintly, "Hey! You don't have demonic chi. I get it. You're from there." Han Fei was lost for words. "Sister, I'm just an ordinary person. I certainly don't have demonic chi." "Haha, poor guy. You must have suffered a lot." Han Fei was lost for words. "Girl, are you talking to me?" Han Fei sensed that the hands on his face were retreating, and the fragrance on his side was dispersing too. Perhaps it was the wind, or perhaps it was from somewhere. A voice came out. "Fine. I didn't expect that I would fall into your hands in the end. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse." Han Fei asked in a hurry, "Wait, girl, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Can you explain it to me before you go?" The voice chuckled. "Remember, take your time. Take your time. Remember to come to me. My name is Bingxue Chu Ling." Han Fei was lost for words. "Wait, why do I have to take my time? How can I find you if you're dead? Hello? Are you still there? Hello? Is the signal bad? Hello?" Han Fei wanted to open his mouth, but when he opened his mouth, a white bead popped out of nowhere and suddenly crawled into his mouth. Then, the bead entered his throat through his mouth, and then dissipated into a stream of air, drifting into his dantian. Han Fei felt that his blood was freezing. What's this? Why did it run in on its own? I'm screwed. I'm screwed. I should have known that I couldn't go to such a weird place as the altar. In his dantian there was a seed, an insect, and a white bead. There were already 3 things. Among them, the heaven spirit detoxifying insect was holding the seed. The white bead, however, was slowly rotating around the seed. Han Fei shivered all over, as if his body had been freed from a layer of shackles. At that moment, Han Fei suddenly turned around, only to see nothing. At this moment, Tengu glanced at Han Fei. "Is there any danger up there?" Han Fei looked at Tengu in a daze. No, when the woman came just now, Tengu was right where he was now. That woman had been talking to him for a long time. Why was Tengu still there? Han Fei immediately cast his fishing hook at Tengu. Tengu grasped the hook with one hand and flew up, landing directly on the altar. Yu Bei, on the other hand, was already lying on the ground, vomiting crazily as if he were heartbroken. However, Han Fei didn't collect the infinity water, because this man must have an immortal seal. After the seal was activated, he would have to kill him again in order to completely kill him. Also, the second kill might trigger the dying strike in the man's body. That thing couldn't be simple. Han Fei didn't want to block it again. He might as well kill him from a distance. Tengu was stunned after he went to the altar. "Why is there nothing?" Han Fei scratched his head. "How should I explain it to you? Could it be that I was touched by a woman just now?" Han Fei asked. "Did you see anything just now?" Tengu shook his head. "No. Weren't you standing here the whole time just now?" Hiss. Han Fei secretly swallowed. Sure enough, Tengu and the others didn't see the woman just now. Ice and snow spirit? Looking for her? How the hell am I looking for her? Han Fei couldn't help but shake his head. Putting that aside for now, his priority was to kill Yu Bei. Gong Yuehan had already arrived. The first thing she said was, "The power of those statues seems to be weakening." "I don't know why," Han Fei instantly said, "because there's not enough spiritual energy. This place is extremely short of spiritual energy in the first place. It's impossible for such an enormous array and so many statue guards to fight all the time. Gong Yuan had no say in that regard. In fact, even Meng Yi thought so. But nobody knew that Han Fei was just making up an excuse. After all, in his opinion, the array had declined because the opportunity was gone. A moment later, everybody gathered around. Yi Xiangxiang was lost for words. Why is there nothing here? I thought that there would be something on the table. Su Hongye added, so, we've actually run around here for nothing. We've encountered a lot of dangers, but we haven't encountered any opportunities at all? Meng Yi nodded. The soul-splitting technique definitely exists. However, we can't get it from those old monsters. Chen Aochen nodded. I did find something. Everybody looked at him. Chen Aochen said, I had a great time fighting. I feel that I've made a lot of progress. I might be able to make a breakthrough after I go back and cultivate in seclusion for a while. Humph. Everybody was lost for words. They thought that he had found something. Ning Dong scoffed. Boring. We lost 11 people in this crappy place. Han Fei quickly interrupted. Let's kill this guy first. This half-mermaid is dying, and the immortal seal is about to be activated. After we kill him again, we should be able to get out. Tango was stunned. The immortal seal? Not good. Run. With that, Tango pulled Han Fei and rushed out. Han Fei asked, What's wrong? The others all ran with him, dumbfounded, not knowing what was going on. Tango roared, I've killed this guy once, and the immortal seal has been activated. Hiss. Just at this moment, a powerful force swept over. The fifth watch. I wish everyone, the lights are waning, and the beauties will hold hands and grow old together. End of this chapter. Chapter 703. One dying strike naturally wouldn't be able to kill all 9 of them. Also, all 9 of them were heavenly talent. Meng Yi and Han Fei led the arrays, Ning Dong blocked the attacks, Gong Yuan attacked with her sword, Tango attacked with his halberd, and Chen Aochen punched with his fists. Everybody put up a strong resistance. In addition, everyone had run quite a distance, so basically, they only spat out a mouthful of blood before they managed to block it. Gotcha! In the underground palace, the ceiling suddenly cracked. When everyone saw this, they immediately thought to themselves, not good. Meng Yi shouted, Run! Half an hour passed. On the surface of the sea, waves were surging and the seabed was roaring. A swift figure suddenly broke out of the water and rushed directly to the half-mermaid's side. Liang Tian sneered when he saw that. Why? There's only one left? The leader of the half-mermaids was rather unsteady. He looked at Yu Ling, who had escaped, and seemed to be talking telepathically. A moment later, the half-mermaid pointed his harpoon at the surface of the sea, and an enormous wave rose to the sky. Liang Tian sneered and unleashed a 1,000-meter-long aura with his longsword. The sword cut off the flow, and the huge wave collapsed with a loud crash. Liang Tian said casually, You and I both know that this treasure trove is very dangerous. Since you lost, don't complain. If you have any resentment, swallow it. The half-mermaid leader sneered. I'd like to see how many human beings are left. After another few hundred seconds, the bottom of the sea was shaking more and more violently, and turbulence was formed on the surface of the sea. Liang Tian frowned. That's not right. How could such a treasure trove that has existed for such a long time collapse so easily when no experts have entered it? Someone asked anxiously, Are our people still not out? Hardly had the man said that when he grinned and said, They're out. Meng Yi, Tango, and the others broke out of the water one after another. Su Hongye was still blaming Han Fei. Are you out of your mind? It's too late. You want to go back and collect the bodies? Han Fei chuckled. What do you know? Divine weapons. Would I be an idiot if I didn't collect them? Zhao Jie said, Tisk tsk. What's your name, Brother Duan? Han Fei said shamelessly, I'm Duan Jiang. Zhao Jie rolled his eyes. Do you think I'll believe you? If you're Duan Jiang, I'll cut off my head and let you kick it like a ball. After seeing Han Fei and the others, on the human side, many powerhouses suddenly looked a little relieved. Someone heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there are still 9 people left. Someone was gratified. Good, good, good. It's better than the other side. They only have 1 left. Someone asked, "What treasures have you obtained?" Meng Yi said, "Senior, there's nothing inside. There are traps everywhere. The only spell that might be extremely powerful is called the soul-splitting spell. It seems to be able to preserve one's soul for later possession." Possession? Impossible. Who knows how many years have passed since that happened? How could a remnant soul be left behind? Yi Xiangxiang said, "It's true. Several of us have been possessed. Right, there's also that Suemo. He's not human at all. He's a traitor, a sea demon spy." Spy? It was getting more and more ridiculous. Sumo's identity can't be wrong. How could he be a spy? Impossible. If it's a sea demon, why doesn't it have demonic aura? Su Hongye said, "We all saw it. Suemo suddenly went on a rampage and heavily wounded me. I might have been killed if it weren't for Xiangxiang and Tang Go." Liang Tian looked at the half-mermaid leader thoughtfully and said to everyone, "You go back first. Now that the treasure trove has been broken, I'll see if I can find anything else." The half-mermaid leader seemed to be thinking the same and dove into the sea. Han Fei and the others flew back at full speed on the boat. Han Fei asked, "The place down there has already collapsed. Can you go there now, Senior Liang Tian?" Someone said, "It's exactly because the seal has been completely broken that they can enter. Otherwise, the place might have collapsed if they broke the seal in the beginning. They can only look for opportunities in the ruins at best." Liang Tian didn't return until 6 hours later. After Liang Tian returned, everybody began to describe their experience in the Snow God's temple. Only then did Han Fei discover that among the remaining 8 people, Gong Yuehan and Ning Dong were also almost possessed. However, the explanation of these 2 people was very simple. Gong Yuehan simply said that her teacher planted a soul-protecting power in her head. Ning Dong's answer was even simpler. He had a soul-protecting secret treasure. Just from this point alone, one could tell that these 2 people had quite a background. Tang Go couldn't avoid it. After all, Yi Xiangxiang and Su Hongye both saw it. At that time, the pressure of Tang Ji's soul had pressed the 3 of them to the ground, which was no joke. So, Tang Gu said calmly that it was a mysterious method that his teacher set up. Everybody knew who Tang Gu was. He was a distinguished disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect. They even knew the relationship between Tang Gu and Mu Ling. Also, with Yi Xiangxiang and Su Hongye's testimonies, nobody doubted it at all. As for Han Fei, he did exactly the same. Everybody claimed that it was a gift from their seniors, and Han Fei was no exception. So, Han Fei said, "It's a mental barrier that my old man set up for me. It's not a problem for me to possess someone." Liang Tian instantly asked, "Aren't you from the Thug Academy?" Han Fei nodded. "That's right. That's why my old man is awesome." Liang Tian frowned. "Isn't the Thug Academy supposed to let the students explore on their own? Everything is in the students' own hands." Han Fei was briefly stunned. Why did Liang Tian know the Thug Academy so well? Han Fei began to brag. "That was before. Now, nobody is in the Thug Academy, so I've given them everything. I have both the amulet and the immortal seal, so it's not surprising." Liang Tian slightly nodded and asked, "I'm told that you were the first to charge to the altar in the underground palace. What did you see?" Han Fei blinked and said, "I only saw an array on the ground. But I couldn't understand it, so I didn't go in. Also, everybody saw the illusion of a woman floating above my head." Liang Tian asked, "Nothing else?" Han Fei shook his head. "Nothing else. I went up first and Tang Gu came later. Then, Gong Yuehan came. We all stood by the altar and didn't move at all. Everybody was watching us." Liang Tian nodded. "Okay, you can go back now. You've made multiple contributions this time by luring the sea demons astray and setting traps to ambush others. Considering your performance, you've been granted the title of Guardian of the Sea. Also, I'm told that you looted a divine battlesuit and 2 divine harpoons, right? Han Fei instantly stepped back. Senior, they're not from the treasure trove. They're my trophies, right? Liang Tian said casually. You can keep 1 harpoon. Submit the battle suit and the harpoon. I'll give you 2 million points of credit. Han Fei was lost for words. He couldn't have looked more pained and regretful. Senior, those are divine weapons. Are they only worth 2 million points of credit? Liang Tian shook his head helplessly. Although this is a little too much. Although it's a bit outrageous, you know how rare divine weapons are on the Scattered Stars Island. Also, you must know that the golden battle suit and the golden harpoon are not divine weapons. Han Fei instantly said, That's impossible. I've seen the defense and attack power of those things in person. They're unbelievably strong. They're very similar to the one in Yu Ji's hand that I fought last time. Liang Tian chuckled. You're just playing tricks. You're a refiner yourself, and you've seen semi-divine weapons and divine weapons. How can you not tell them apart? You'll know it when you ask Beihua later. Also, the Scattered Stars Island bought your battlesuit and harpoon mainly for the Scattered Stars 4th unit to study. Do you think they'll give them to you? Just give them to them. After all, there's a reward. Han Fei asked timidly, What if I don't want to give them to you? Liang Tian glanced at Han Fei. Then, it won't be so easy for you to do your one-stop refining and soul-sealing promotion every day. Han Fei instantly gritted his teeth. Then, forget it. I'll just give them to you. Well, I'm just so selfless. Liang Tian staggered. Selfless? Selfless? Liang Tian said angrily, Get the hell out of here. Handing over the golden battle suit and the harpoon, Han Fei was about to leave. After only 2 steps, Han Fei suddenly looked back. Senior, I've killed 2 peerless heavenly talents and more than 5 regular heavenly talent. Can I count my achievement of slaying 100 people? Liang Tian staggered again. I'll count your 30 heads. Your waist tag will have a number on it later. Hearing that, Han Fei instantly put on a big smile. That's good enough. Later, he would find a way to deal with 70. Well, 7 peerless heavenly talents, and he would be able to slay 100 people. At that time, the 5-star star rank and the logistics division would get a discount. Huh? It seems that the honorary title of Guardian of the Sea can be discounted too. How much is it? Forget it. I'll go to Lu Renquang later. After he left the Scattered Stars 1st unit, Han Fei turned right and entered the Scattered Stars 4th unit. That was the benefit of being in 2 departments. It was almost impossible for ordinary people to meet each other in different departments. They would only get to know each other during special operations. Or, like Guan Qinyan and Mu Jie, they were so famous that it was hard for people not to know them, so they couldn't disguise themselves. It was rare for Han Fei to make a turn right after he left home. Uncle Beihua, the 6th chapter. I wish all of you that the flowers will bloom in the coming year, and that you may lean against the railing and look at the world with a smile. End of this chapter. Chapter 704. On the 4th unit's side, Han Fei didn't see Beihua, Guan Qinyan, or Mu Jie, but Xie Qingqing, who he had met a few times, was circling. Xie Qingqing was wearing a long, bright red dress, which swayed along with her body and spun around. Seeing Xie Qingqing, Han Fei tried to sneak away. However, Xie Qingqing shouted, Han Fei, come here, come here. Han Fei was lost for words. Damn it, I shouldn't have spoken just now. Gritting his teeth, Han Fei walked to her and asked, Sister Qingqing, what's your style? Xie Qingqing stood straight and asked, Do you think I look good? Han Fei sweated. Yes, yes. Sister Qingqing, well, I'm in a hurry. I have to go. Xie Qingqing grabbed Han Fei. Wait a moment. You haven't even looked at me and you're saying that I look good? Han Fei smiled awkwardly. Then I won't look at you. I know you look good, Sister Qingqing.
Do I need to look at you?
Anyone with a discerning eye knows. Xie Qingqing chuckled. Okay, I'll stop teasing you. What do you think of my dress? I sealed the sole with a fiery fish. However, I feel that the dress is a little too long. Do you think I should shorten it? Han Fei was lost for words. He thought to himself, you're going to the battlefield in a dress? Do you want to run naked just because you're enjoying the breeze? Han Fei said absent-mindedly, it'll look better if you cut it above your knees. Xie Qingqing thought for a moment and asked, wouldn't it be less defensive? Han Fei rolled his eyes. You're not going to the battlefield in this dress. Why do you care about defense? It's fine as long as it looks good. Lower the neckline. Perfect. Well, I'm really in a hurry. Xie Qingqing grabbed Han Fei. That does make sense. I'm a refiner, and I'm not going to the battlefield. TSK. You have good eyes. Alright, Boss Beihua is in the refining hall. You can go. The refining hall? Uncle Beihua, do you still need to refine? Xie Qingqing remarked. Boss Beihua is exchanging refining experiences with several 5-star refiners today. Xiao Guan and Jiar are watching. You're out on a mission, so you don't know. Han Fei was stunned. A meeting of 5-star refiners? Big Sister Qingqing, why don't you go? Xie Qingqing shrugged. It happens once every 3 months. I've been there several times. I don't understand, so I might as well not go. Han Fei immediately ran off. Sister Qingqing, I'm leaving. Bye. Xie Qingqing shook her head helplessly and muttered, even if I go, I won't understand. Shorten the skirt? It seemed like a good suggestion. Would it look bad if the neckline was too low? Give it a try. When Han Fei arrived at the refining hall, he was immediately recognized. Immediately, someone shouted, Master Han Fei, when are we going to refine? Do you still have one dragon? Someone chased after Han Fei and asked, Master Han Fei, let's not be greedy. A 20% discount is fine too. When are you going to hang up your stall? Han Fei rolled his eyes. Do you want to flip the cards? Han Fei immediately said, I've been really busy recently. Wait a moment, everybody. I'm going to the lecture first. Getting rid of those people, Han Fei rushed to the shop assistant and threw 5 high-quality pearls at her. Where's the meeting of 5-star refiners? The girl was stunned for a moment and asked in shock, Master Han Fei? Oh, it's in the number 8 refining room. There's someone waiting at the door. Han Fei turned around and ran to the refining hall. This time, on this trip, he truly understood how powerful a powerful weapon was. For example, Snowmorn, a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. Han Fei felt that when he could use it freely one day, he wouldn't need to use his brain in a fight at all. Besides, was the semi-divine weapon that he had just gotten different from a divine weapon? Of course, he knew that it was a semi-divine weapon, but even though it was not a real divine weapon, it was still very powerful and much better than his other weapons. Also, the guy's golden battle suit and harpoon were really strong. If he hadn't crushed it, he wouldn't have been able to defeat it. At the door of the number 8 refining room, 2 dignified 2-star refiners were watching at the door. They were both in their early 20s. When Han Fei strode over, the 2 of them were stunned. Stop, what are you doing? Han Fei was stunned for a moment and quickly took out his 3-star refiner certificate. Okay. I'm going to the lecture. Hiss. At the door, the 2 refiners looked at each other in bewilderment. A 3-star refiner? Han Fei asked, Can I go in now? One of them immediately smiled and said, Yes, of course. Please come in. After Han Fei stepped in, the other person immediately asked, Who is this? Why haven't we seen such a young 3-star refiner before? Have you forgotten the newcomer a while ago? The one who claims to be a one-stop shop for refining and spirit sealing and offers a 30% discount every day. It's him? Han Fei? Of course. Guan Qingyan and Mu Jie are already inside. Now, another young one has popped up. Who else can it be but Han Fei? Tisk tsk. This guy is truly ruthless. I'm told that he only takes 2 sets of materials and offers a 30% discount. Even those with a low success rate dare not do that. Not just that. Even 4-star refiners dare not do that sometimes. If they don't take enough materials and make a mistake, or if the spirit sealing isn't done well, their reputation will be tarnished. While the 2 refiners clicked their tongues in amazement, Han Fei had already appeared in the refining room. After a glance, Han Fei saw 100 people gathered here. Because the refining room itself wasn't large, the number 8 refining room was only about 300 square meters. He couldn't even see the hundreds of people in the room. Voices came out of the room. Beihua said, "So, when we refine ultra-quality spiritual weapons, there are still a lot of details that we can improve. Those details are necessary for you to be promoted to 4-star refiners." A middle-aged man next to him smiled. Master Beihua is right. It's almost impossible for a 3-star refiner to refine a divine weapon. However, let me make it clear to all of you that there is a chance of becoming a 4-star blacksmith. Even if they can't be refined into a divine weapon, they can at least push ultra-quality spiritual weapons to a new height. An old man smiled. That's right. This is the semi-divine weapon that we often talk about. It's a semi-divine weapon. In fact, it's infinitely close to a divine weapon, but it can't be turned into a divine weapon because of the poor quality of the materials. We've discussed this question countless times. However, recently, I'm told that Guan Qinyan, a genius refiner, has made a semi-divine weapon. Guan Qinyan, what do you think? Guan Qinyan rose and took out a shield. I sealed a level 47 mutant silver-scaled fish in this shield. I've done my best on the spiritual weapon itself, and I've tried my best to seal creatures. However, it's still an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. So, I thought of the enhancement of arrays. But I've experimented many times, and the enhancement of a single array can only make the ultra-quality spiritual weapon slightly more powerful, but not enough to make it into an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. So, I asked an array master to carve 9 serial defense arrays on it. When the arrays are carved, the semi-divine weapon will be ready. Wow! Someone was startled. 9 interlocking arrays will do? Guan Qinyan nodded. Yes, 9. Someone said, that's not right. We've also made arrays. Not to mention 9, we've even tried a dozen arrays, but no semi-divine weapon has ever been produced. Guan Qinyan nodded. It's not a set of arrays, it's a serial array. The 9 arrays are combined into one, but it's actually just one array. Someone sighed. Guan, which array master did you find to make this? Guan Qinyan shook his head. I can't say. Someone asked, how many such array masters do we have on the Scattered Stars Island? Guan Qinyan nodded. No more than 5. Immediately, someone was discouraged. That's useless. There are no more than 5 in the entire Scattered Stars Island. He must be an array master. Guan Qinyan nodded. It's useful. When I was discussing arrays with Han Fei proposed a theory called replication. It means to use a single serial array as a template. If you remember this array, you can always make exactly the same weapon. As long as you can make one, you can make many. Someone exclaimed, so, in fact, we only need to remember one array, and we can make many identical semi-divine weapons. Someone sighed. So, the key to making semi-divine weapons is not us refiners, but array masters? No. While everyone was discussing fervently, they suddenly heard a voice from above their heads. Everyone's first reaction was, why is there someone above their heads? Then they all looked up, only to see a spider-like guy hanging on the ceiling and crawling forward. Han Fei took out a hand and said, Old Guan, there's something wrong with this method. I've tried it. He came up with this method from old Jiang when he was refining the Overlord. However, He had tried it several times and found that the replication array didn't work. Guan Qingyin's eyes lit up when he saw Han Fei. "Brother Han, you came at the right time. Why doesn't this method work?" Many people were stunned and looked up at the ceiling. Is this Han Fei? The genius refiner. Is it true that this guy became a 3-star refiner faster than Guan Qingyin? Why is he hanging on the ceiling? Han Fei simply jumped down from the ceiling and dashed over. "Old Guan, have you made a second one?" Guan Qingyin frowned. "Not yet. It's not easy to find a creature with a sealed spirit." Han Fei patted his shoulder. "That's right. It's not easy to make a second one." Beihua and the other old men couldn't help but say, "Han Fei, we've considered your idea, and it's indeed feasible. We never thought of merging arrays before. So we never made semi-divine weapons. However, the first semi-divine weapon made of ultra-quality materials has already been made." Han Fei waved his hand. "Uncle Beihua, there's actually a problem. I've tried it, and there's only one way to successfully replicate it. Nothing else works." Beihua asked, "What is it?" Guan Qingyin asked, "What is it?" Everyone asked, "What is it?" "The 7th watch, it's the 7th watch today. I'm drinking now, congratulations, everyone. May the purple air come from the east and the neon lights rise outside the window in the coming year. May you drink to your heart's content and be at peace with the world. I wish you all eternal youth and a carefree and unfettered time of warmth. I wish all of you, your eyes are bright, and the road ahead is without wind and waves. I wish all of you, the lights are waning, and the beauties will hold hands and grow old together. May flowers bloom in the coming year and smile at the world. May you stay in bed because it's cold outside and pneumonia is dangerous. Where are the tickets? Although it's only 7, there will be more tomorrow. I've handed in the tickets. I should be drinking now, going home to sleep, and continuing to write at night." End of this chapter. Chapter 705. Han Fei shook his head. Since when was Guan Qingyin so impatient? At first, he was the one who proposed the concept of array fusion. Han Fei said with a bitter smile, "You might not believe it if I tell you. That is, you can simply set up an array when you're crafting an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. However, once the spiritual weapon is crafted, it's completely different to set up an array." Guan Qingyin asked, "You've tried it? How did it work?" Han Fei asked, "Did the array master you found set up the array on his own and didn't explain it to you?" Guan Qingyin's face slightly changed. "Yes, that's true." Beihua asked, "Why not? What's the logic?" Han Fei said, "To set up the array, I need to understand the characteristics of the spiritual weapon's materials. When I draw the array, I need to adjust the strength and method of the array with my own feelings. So, the array master can draw it, but we can't duplicate it." Guan Qingyin asked eagerly, "Brother Han, have you figured out a solution?" Han Fei waved his hand. "I may have to learn arrays first. Also, the smaller the weapon, the more difficult it will be to draw an array. The shield is so big that it's easy to draw it, but it's difficult to draw a sword or a knife." Guan Qingyin nodded. "Of course." Mu Jiaer suddenly said, "Can't we first draw a fusion chain formation, then refine it with top-grade materials, and then fuse it into the weapon? Can't we use the array as a material and refine it with the spirit refining technique?" Han Fei, however, was refreshed. "Shoot. That's right. Why didn't I think of that?" Guan Qingyin also shivered. "This method may work." Beihua and the other 2 5-star refiners changed their expressions and looked at each other. This guy was truly a genius. He wasn't called a genius refiner for nothing. His way of thinking was beyond anyone's imagination. What kind of a genius refiner was it to craft something as intangible as an array with tangible materials? Beihua suddenly rose. "Okay, everybody, today's meeting is over. We'll tell you the result after we have an experiment. Let's go." Immediately, a refiner asked, "Master Beihua, are we going to experiment now? Can we stay and observe?" Before Beihua said anything, the oldest refiner had already berated him. You'll only affect the experiment if there are so many people here. If this method succeeds, you will definitely be notified. Han Fei was stunned. Hey. Weren't they supposed to be in class? How did it end? Beihua glanced at Han Fei casually. It's already over. After that, we'll talk about the refining method of semi-divine weapons. Han Fei. After everybody left, Beihua finally said, Han Fei, aren't you on a mission? Why are you back so soon? My mission is over. Didn't he hear that there was going to be an exchange meeting here? So I came. Beihua introduced. Now that you're here, let me introduce you. This is Li Feiyun, the head of the refining hall in the fragmentary Star City, a 5-star blacksmith. Han Fei cupped his fists. Nice to meet you, senior. The middle-aged man next to Beihua nodded at Han Fei casually. Young man, you're smart. Very good. Beihua continued. This is Wang Su, a 5-star blacksmith in charge of the refining halls in the north, south, east, and west. He's also my teacher. Han Fei said, Nice to meet you, Grandpa. Wang Su scratched his beard and smiled. I'm told that you became a 3-star blacksmith in only 1 month. You're very talented. It will be a great achievement if you can solve the problem of semi-divine weapons. Try your best. Han Fei suddenly asked, Seniors, wouldn't it be faster and more efficient if you do it on your own? Beihua shook his head. We're actually already capable of refining semi-divine weapons. However, even if we do it, it's only because of the materials and the creatures sealed in them, so it's not really a breakthrough. Right now, there are few 5-star blacksmiths on the Scattered Stars Island. We can't give the methods of 5-star blacksmiths to 3-star blacksmiths. That's meaningless. They won't be able to refine what they're supposed to. Wang Su nodded. That's right. It's really up to you to finish it. If you can do it, most 3-star blacksmiths can too. Li Yunfei also said, Let's just wait and see how it turns out. Beihua, they're all your men. We'll leave them alone for now. Beihua nodded with a smile and saw them out. Mu Jiar said, Liar, I heard that you went to the deep sea? Did you fight? Like last time? Han Fei was lost for words. Don't call me a liar. What did I lie to you about? Mu Jiar pouted. I like it. That's what I call you. You're my senior sister. Han Fei ignored her and looked at Guan Qingyan. Old Guan, when did you refine a semi-divine weapon? Not bad. Guan Qingyan shook his head casually. I didn't refine a semi-divine weapon. It only appeared when the array was branded on the shield. Beihua, on the other hand, looked at Han Fei weirdly when he came in. Are you really here for the conference? Han Fei grinned. By the way, I brought back a weapon. Then, Han Fei took out the golden harpoon and knocked it on the ground. He knocked on the ground, and immediately, a wave of air rippled out. In fact, Han Fei had a battle suit and a harpoon, but nobody knew it. Han Fei couldn't tell them. Mu Jiar exclaimed, Ah! Is this a semi-divine weapon used by a half-mermaid heavenly talent? Guan Qingyan hurried over. Did you snatch a semi-divine weapon? For a moment, Mu Jiar and Guan Qingyan's eyes were all focused on Han Fei's golden harpoon. For some reason, there was no data in Han Fei's eyes. Therefore, he couldn't see the information of this weapon. A semi-divine weapon was indeed a semi-divine weapon, but only in battle would he find that even he had to unleash his full strength to resist it. Han Fei wondered if it was a semi-divine weapon, which couldn't be fully controlled by a hanging fisher. Therefore, in the hands of the half-mermaids, it didn't show any amazing power. Otherwise, even 1% of the power of a sea-quelling bizarre treasure would be terrifying. Beihua said, It's indeed a semi-divine weapon, a standard semi-divine weapon made by sea demons. The three of them immediately looked up at Beihua. Guan Qingyan asked, Standard? Is it mass-produced? The power of this weapon is indeed terrifying. I guess the half-mermaids can't exert their full power, right? Beihua nodded. It should be. In fact, we've looted a lot of golden battlesuits and golden harpoons. At first, we thought they were divine weapons, but when we reforged them, we found that they were not divine weapons, but semi-divine weapons. Besides, every one of them is made in the same way, which means that the sea demons have mastered the way to mass-produce semi-divine weapons. Han Fei asked, mass production? Beihua said with a smile, even if it's mass production, it's still a semi-divine weapon. After all, it's beyond the boundary of ultra-quality spiritual weapons and can already be called divine weapons. However, it's not as good as a low-quality divine weapon. Han Fei thought for a moment. The Overlord was a semi-divine weapon. He had plagiarized Mu Jier's idea, combined it with Old Zhang's method of drawing arrays, and sealed the Blood Fiend octopus in it, making the Overlord a real semi-divine weapon. This was also one of Han Fei's important trump cards. Han Fei sighed. If only we knew how to mass-produce them. Otherwise, we can only loot more for our own use. Guan Qingyan said, it can't be used directly. We need to reforge it. Han Fei was stunned. Why? Isn't it a semi-divine weapon? Mu Jier mocked. It's a weapon of sea demons after all. Their refining method is completely different from ours. Besides, the sea demons' weapons are not only used with spiritual energy but also with demonic qi. How can you use it without demonic qi? Han Fei asked in surprise. Is that so? Beihua nodded. Yes, we don't know the refining method of sea demons. If we want to use it, we can only reforge it. After all, the materials are still the same. However, if we reforge it, it will become an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. Han Fei was speechless. It will be downgraded? Mu Jier nodded. Of course. After all, the materials used to forge this golden weapon are only mixed with some ultra-quality materials, not all divine weapon materials. If we reforge it badly, it will certainly be downgraded. Han Fei was speechless. He had been so happy for a long time. He had hidden a set, but now it seemed that he had to reforge it. However, Han Fei thought for a moment. It wasn't troublesome to reforge it. If he couldn't reforge it, he could just give it to the demon purification pot. In the future, if he mastered the fusion method of the chain formation, it should not be a big problem to refine semi-divine weapons. Han Fei came here full of interest, but after getting the exact answer, he lost interest. Anyway, he didn't have the ability to refine semi-divine weapons now. However, he had obtained the Ocean Book. This thing was a treasure. If he studied it carefully, he would definitely make great progress on the path of arrays. Besides, he was very busy now. In addition to the Ocean Book, he also had to study the soul-splitting technique. In terms of quality, the soul-splitting technique was much better than the Great Soul Attachment technique he got from the Undersea City. The Great Soul Attachment technique had many disadvantages. After all, it was only a heaven-level, mid-quality weapon, and one's soul might be destroyed. But this soul-splitting technique was different. It was a heaven-level, divine-quality weapon. It wasn't just a little bit higher. It felt like it was just short of having an immortal soul. Learning about semi-divine weapons, Han Fei immediately said, Well, Uncle Beihua, you go ahead. I have something else to do. I'm leaving. Guan Qingyan hurriedly shouted, Brother Han, should we study the method of refining semi-divine weapons? After all, Jia made an excellent suggestion. Han Fei patted Guan Qingyan's shoulder, only to get his hand covered in frost. Old Guan, what's wrong with you? It's so cold. Guan Qingyan said solemnly, It's just the technique I practice. It's fine. Han Fei said, Anyway, Mu Jier has put forward her idea. Why don't you try it yourself? You can try it first. Let me know if you succeed. I'm a little busy now. See you. Chapter 706. After leaving the refining hall, Han Fei contacted Lu Renquang and the others as soon as possible. During this period, he often went to Old Zhang's place. It seemed that they hadn't met for a while. Quang, are you there? After waiting for a while, there was no response. Han Fei thought this guy must be out on a mission. Xiaobai, are you off today? After calling them, Han Fei remembered that Luo Xiaobai seemed to have also gone out on a mission. Zhang Xuanyu was running around now, and Xia Xiaochan shouldn't be on holiday yet. Forget it, let's go back to refined semi-divine weapons first. Han Fei's base was still on the skeleton shore. However, he didn't care much about it now. After the last batch of ultra-quality spiritual weapons was refined, almost everyone in the 8th Battalion had an ultra-quality spiritual weapon with a sealed spirit. Besides, after such a long time, everyone's debts had almost been paid off. He might have to start a new round of refining activities. While controlling the fishing boat to fly back, Han Fei secretly prepared to go back and take a look first. Was there anything in the sea swallowing seashells of the 2 dead half-mermaids? Oh no! Suddenly, Han Fei was dumbfounded. He didn't have many ultra-quality spiritual stones left. Han Fei immediately slapped his thigh. In recent months, in order to make money and refine, he had spent a lot of spiritual energy. This time, the trip to the Snow God's temple almost consumed the spiritual spring and spiritual stones stored in Forge the Universe. At this moment, there were only 10 ultra-quality spiritual stones left, which added up to only 10 million points of spiritual energy. Han Fei immediately slapped his thigh. Damn it, I've spent too much spiritual energy recently. No, I can't just think about refining to make money. I have to save some spiritual energy. Han Fei immediately took out a spiritual fruit and stuffed it into his mouth. Although there were only 10 ultra-quality spiritual stones left, he still had about 18,000 spiritual fruit. Among them, energy fruits accounted for about 1/3. The rest were basically ordinary spiritual fruits, and a small number of spiritual fruits that could increase spiritual power. In this way, he still had 800 million points of spiritual energy. However, there were 2 ways to use spiritual fruits. One was to take them orally, which had to be digested and absorbed. In the long run, it was good for one's body. The other way was to crush them directly and let the spiritual energy disperse or overflow. Such violence had its drawbacks. The first drawback was that he couldn't nourish himself with spirit fruits, which was a huge loss. One had to know that spiritual fruits not only contained spiritual energy, but also had many other effects. For example, it could increase one's blood qi, increase one's mental power, strengthen one's physique, increase one's strength, etc. Secondly, the turbulent spiritual energy was not easy to control. If he couldn't even control it when the spiritual qi was rampaging, how could he forge it? With his current swallowing ability, he could probably eat 50 at a time before he couldn't eat anymore. Moreover, he needed to rest for 2 to 3 days. Otherwise, the various types of spiritual energy in his body would fluctuate, and the gains would not make up for the losses. Baji! Eat one more to calm down. When Han Fei arrived at the skeleton shore, he was greeted by hundreds of fishing boats. The leader was none other than Cao Qiu. When Cao Qiu saw Han Fei, he immediately raised his hand and shouted, "Han Fei, you're back?" Han Fei flew closer and saw that many people on the 100 fishing boats behind Cao Qiu were crying. He couldn't help but ask, "What's going on? There's a war?" Han Fei thought, that's not right. If there's a war, can Cao Qiu fight in person? Cao Qiu scratched his head and chuckled. Well, I just went out to test the poison. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Do so many people need to test the poison? Immediately someone said, "Alas! This test has turned our skeleton shore into a forbidden land." Wu Xiaoxiao's fishing boat flew over. "Captain, you're finally back?" Han Fei was confused. "Wait, what do you mean by turning the skeleton shore into a dangerous place?" Wu Xiaoxiao said to him telepathically, "Captain, you'd better not go out. Deputy Captain Chao has made a breakthrough in making poisons recently. He has just developed the enhanced version of Poison God. He threw it into the sea and it stretched for more than 2,000 meters, killing all marine creatures. In the end, the poison was washed to the beach by the waves, killing a large number of ordinary creatures on the beach. Hiss! Han Fei looked at Chao Qiu in shock. Poison God enhanced version? How is it enhanced? Chao Qiu said awkwardly, well, I accidentally developed a contagious poison. I tested it just now and couldn't control it. However, listen to me, this poison was made by accident, and its effect will decline. In 1 day at most, the skeleton shore will become a normal skeleton shore. Han Fei raised his eyebrows and asked, how much do you have left? Chao Qiu frowned. Well, I really don't have much left. Han Fei asked, how about 100 kilograms first? Chao Qiu's face changed drastically. I don't even have 100 kilograms myself. I only made about 30 kilograms in total. I just used 10 kilograms. Han Fei's expression changed and he immediately said to everyone, it's okay. The sea can purify poisons. Let's take a day off. After that, they returned to the camp, and Han Fei took Chao Qiu to a corner where there was no one. After exploring the Snow God's temple this time, Han Fei knew the importance of Poison God. With Poison God, he killed 2 half-mermaid heavenly talents almost effortlessly, which showed the power of Poison God. Han Fei said, come on, give me half of it. Chao Qiu hesitated. I still need it to study the poison formula. Han Fei put his arm around Chao Qiu's shoulder. You can study it. You know I'm risking my life outside. I can exchange it with you. Chao Qiu immediately said, I'll exchange 500 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid with you. Han Fei pushed Chao Qiu away and stared at him blankly. Chao Qiu, you've changed. Chao Qiu's face was black. I once lent you 2 peak-level hidden fishers and gave you a lot of Poison God and Poison King. Han Fei chuckled. That's all in the past. Why are we mentioning it again? Besides, last time I gave you some spirit awakening fluid afterward. I exchanged it with credit points. Besides, last time I did it to save the skeleton shore and you. Otherwise, think about it, if the sea demons attack, how can the skeleton shore withstand it? Chao Qiu rolled his eyes. I won't be fooled now. It's too difficult to get credit points. They won't buy it if I sell it to them privately. There are many good things that can't be bought with high-quality pearls. You can give me credit points. Han Fei immediately stepped forward and patted Chao Qiu on the shoulder. I suddenly found that I don't need it for the time being. Take your time to make the antidote. When I have money, I'll buy it from you. Chao Qiu. This time, it was Chao Qiu's turn to panic. You don't want it? You don't want my Poison God enhanced version? Chao Qiu immediately said, I can give you less credit points. I think you should try the Poison God enhanced version. It's much more powerful than before. Han Fei patted Chao Qiu on the shoulder. It's okay. I'm content. I still have some Poison God which I can use first. I don't think I'll go to sea in a short time. So, when I need to go to sea, I'll buy it from you. Bye. Han Fei slipped away with a swish, leaving Chao Qiu alone where he was. Han Fei muttered as he ran, Are you kidding me? Do you want me to buy it with credit points? Do you think I got my credit points? Han Fei slipped into his treehouse and then set up a concealment array, a stealth array, a defense array. After swallowing more than 30 spiritual fruits in a row, Han Fei looked at his data. Owner Han Fei, level greater than 44, intermediate hanging fisher, spiritual energy 256, 6655, 11228, spiritual power 17821799, perception range greater than 17,999 meters, spiritual heritage, level 5, high quality spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish, level 38, main art, void breaking technique, volume 4 of void fishing, demon level, divine quality. Han Fei couldn't help feeling a little regretful. Recently, he had been busy refining and learning arrays, and his upper limit of spiritual energy and spiritual power had hardly improved. Besides, he was now an intermediate hanging fisher. He had to find a way to deduce the 5th level of void fishing. If he guessed right, after a level 7 spiritual heritage, there would be a qualitative change. It was a pity that he couldn't reach a level 7 spiritual heritage during this period of time, because the 6th level of void fishing seemed to only be available in the Thousand-Star City. But a level 6 spiritual heritage was not bad. However, to make a breakthrough, he had to save a lot of spiritual energy first. If he ate 50 spiritual fruits every 3 days, it would take him nearly 3 months to save 100 million points of spiritual energy. He could eat 20 spiritual fruits a day, so that he could eat 60 spiritual fruits every 3 days, which could shorten the time to 10 or 20 days. Immediately, Han Fei decided that he had to find a place in the sea to make a breakthrough in at most 3 months. It was unlikely to happen on the Scattered Stars Island. There were too many strong masters, and once the world changed, it would be easy to catch them. At that time, the consequences would be unpredictable. However, before that, he had to turn those semi-divine weapons into real semi-divine weapons today. However, Han Fei wondered if the 3 semi-divine weapons could be smelted into a divine weapon. But on second thought, Han Fei immediately gave up. Semi-divine weapons were already rare, and having a divine weapon might be coveted by others. A semi-divine weapon should be acceptable. Immediately, Han Fei threw the golden harpoon into the demon purification pot. Chapter 707. The demon purification pot only needed to use his brain to refine weapons. Whatever he wanted to refine, he could refine it into whatever he wanted. All he had to do was to throw spiritual energy into it. The first thing that Han Fei thought of was to refine the water-dividing seal first. The water-dividing seal had been broken earlier. This fully showed that in front of a heavenly talent, even an ultra-quality spiritual weapon with a sealed soul was still not good enough. The water-dividing seal was a powerful weapon, but the water-stirring seal technique was a bit lousy. Besides, Han Fei felt that the water-stirring seal technique wasn't powerful enough. He had to go to the logistics division and get a new powerful seal technique to deduce. In the demon purification pot, a harpoon was refined into a big seal, and the materials were being crazily compressed. The seal had to be small and could be clasped in one hand. When the battle skill was used, it could become very large, and it could be thrown out very heavily to smash people. After a while, Han Fei took a deep breath. The reserve of spiritual energy had been consumed by 2 million points. This small seal slowly flew out of the demon purification pot like a girl in a boudoir. In Han Fei's eyes, information popped up. Name Golden Seal Introduction, a weapon made of red sun mystic crystal, weighing 88,000 kilograms. It contains the sharpness of gung metal and can pierce through armor at extreme speed. Quality semi-divine weapon, attached soul, non-recastable, unrefined. Note: due to the limited forging materials, it can be cast into a semi-divine weapon at most. Han Fei weighed the golden seal and felt it was a bit light. Sure enough, it's no match for the embroidery needle. It's only 88,000 kilograms. However, it's a semi-divine weapon anyway, and its quality should be excellent. After all, such a large harpoon is only half the size of a palm after being refined into a seal. Putting away the golden seal, Han Fei found that he only had more than 560,000 points of spiritual energy left, which was not enough to refine another semi-divine weapon. He wasn't in a hurry. After eating fruits for a few days, he could continue refining. The next day, after practicing the 108 Desolate God Body, Han Fei found that there were 2 million more points on his waist tag. Now he had more than 16 million points. At the bottom of the waist tag, there were 4 words, Guardian of the Sea. Above the words, there was a small double cross with the number 30 next to it. Also, after these words appeared on the waist tag, Han Fei found that the waist tag had a faint milky luster. As it happened, Yu Lingyun, Wu Xiaoxiao, and the others were walking to them. Wu Xiaoxiao said, "Captain, it's our turn to work today. Since you're not here, our team has always been led by Vice Captain Chao. However, Vice Captain Chao was always researching poisons and didn't have time to go out to sea with us. Therefore, the four of us usually go by ourselves." Han Fei nodded. "It's okay. Judging from Yu Lingyun's aura, she should be close to becoming an intermediate hanging fisher, right? Are you going to break through in the next few days?" Yu Lingyun nodded. "Yes, I'll make a breakthrough in 3 days at most." Han Fei smiled. "When you make a breakthrough, I will give you the position of captain. When the time comes, we'll recruit another person." Yu Lingyun's face slightly changed, but Wu Xiaoxiao simply grabbed Han Fei's clothes and said coquettishly, "Captain, are you going to abandon us?" Han Fei quickly pulled his clothes back. "Don't talk to me like this. I'm too busy," Wu Xiaoxiao asked. "But being a scout is your main profession, Captain, isn't it?" Han Fei simply changed the topic. "Hey, do you know why the waist tag is glowing?" Everybody finally noticed Han Fei's waist tag. They all gasped. Gu Daliang asked in shock, "Captain, what did you do?" Han Fei scratched his head. Leng Hui explained, "The honor of the Guardian of the Sea can only be obtained with great contributions." Yu Lingyun added, "You can't get the title of honor in a regular defensive battle. You can't get it unless you have made great contributions in a large-scale defensive battle. Or something big that we don't know." Then, Yu Lingyun and the others all stared at Han Fei. Han Fei came back to himself. "Hey, actually, it's nothing. I just proposed the possibility of refining a semi-divine weapon. I haven't refined it yet." A semi-divine weapon. They were all shocked. An ultra-quality spiritual weapon with a sealed soul was already extremely rare. Under normal circumstances, it was only possible for those with 4 stars to get one. But how long had it been since their captain joined? In the blink of an eye, he had become a 4-star. In the blink of an eye, he had become a refiner. In the blink of an eye, he could even get an honorary title. He certainly couldn't tell Yu Lingyun and the others about the treasure trove and the battle in the Heaven-Human Canyon. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. "It's nothing. Let's go. Let's go patrol. It's been a long time since we last went to investigate. Right, Wu Xiaoxiao, have you changed your technique?" Wu Xiaoxiao was amused. "I've changed it for 2 months. "Oh? Really? Practice hard and try to become an intermediate hanging fisher as soon as possible. Your breakthroughs are too slow. Look at me. I'm already an intermediate hanging fisher." Wu Xiaoxiao rolled her eyes. "I don't want to compete with you." In the sky above the skeleton shore, Han Fei sensed for a moment. "There are very few creatures today." Yu Lingyun added, "They were poisoned yesterday." Han Fei chuckled. "How could they be so poisoned? Were they all poisoned?" Wu Xiaoxiao nodded. "Believe it. Captain Chao's poison is really terrifying. Those creatures all fought and bit each other. In the end, a large area of them was poisoned, and they were running everywhere. Didn't you see that nobody was scavenging on the skeleton shore today?" Han Fei frowned. "Is it really that powerful?" Leng Hui explained, "All the poisoned creatures are spreading the poison. However, it seems that the more it spreads, the less toxic it is. However, the symptoms are similar to the poison god." Han Fei couldn't help but feel a little creeped out. No wonder Chao Qiu raised the price. It turned out that he had developed an extremely powerful poison. No, he had to find a way to see if he could get some of the new poison god when he was free. 2 hours passed. Han Fei said, "Forget it. There are few creatures today. I haven't seen a single exotic creature. Let's go back." Gu Daliang added, "Exotic creatures are actually quite rare." Han Fei was lost for words. "Why are you still undermining me?" Han Fei said thoughtfully, "Daliang, you are just too straightforward. Logically speaking, an honest person should be able to cultivate very quickly. Look at you. Do you have all the weapons in your armor box? Han Fei was about to trick Gu Daliang into buying on credit, when he saw a fishing boat flying over quickly in the sky. He took a closer look. Wasn't that Lu Renquang? Han Fei immediately waved his hand. Quang, how did you find the time to come to my place? I went to your place yesterday, but you were not there. However, when Lu Renquang came to him, Han Fei found that something was wrong. Under normal circumstances, Lu Renquang was always smiling. When he was with Han Fei, he would always be naughty and then discuss what to eat. But this time, Lu Renquang looked extremely awful and even a little flustered. Han Fei's face sank. What's wrong? What happened? Lu Renquang's lips trembled. Don't get too excited. Maybe it's not that serious. Han Fei immediately became serious. You're already so flustered, and it's not serious? On the side, Yu Lingyun and the others clearly felt that something was wrong with Han Fei. A kind of pressure was taking shape. Han Fei was just an intermediate hanging fisher. How could he make them feel such a terrifying pressure? Han Fei asked, Tell me what happened. You're here, but Zhang Xuanyu, Luo Xiaobai, and Xia Shaochan are not here. Suddenly, Han Fei's body trembled. Liang Tian said that Luo Xiaobai actually joined the Scattered Stars first unit. Besides, she was involved in some operation. Han Fei asked angrily, Did something happen to Luo Xiaobai? Lu Renquang shook his head quickly. Not Xiaobai, not Xiaobai. Han Fei breathed a sigh of relief, but then he took a deep breath. If it weren't for Luo Xiaobai, Zhang Xuanyu would be fine now that he was in the patrol team. Only Xia Shaochan could go out at any time. Bam! Spiritual energy burst out from Han Fei. Did something happen to Xia Shaochan? Lu Renquang said in a panic, Don't get too excited. Don't get too excited. Maybe she'll be back soon. The wind god boat appeared in the sky. Lu Renquang recalled his boat and jumped on the wind god boat. Wait a minute. Don't get too excited. Han Fei glanced at Yu Lingyun and the others. You can go back on your own. Leng Hui simply controlled the boat to leave quickly and disappear into the sky. Wu Xiaoxiao sighed. Hey, why are you leaving so fast? Chances are that the captain needs our help. Leng Hui said casually, We can't help. Wu Xiaoxiao asked, How do you know? Didn't you see how terrifying the captain has become? Leng Hui said, Those who can stay with the captain can't be weak. Do you think the four of us can beat the captain together? Wu Xiaoxiao added, But we can still contribute to the team. Leng Hui shook his head. We'll only hold him back. Don't forget that the captain has seniors on the Scattered Stars Island. Yu Lingyun nodded. That's right. I don't think we can help at all if we go there. On the other side, Han Fei held back his fury and said coldly, How can they be missing? Doesn't the Dark Hunter Legion hunt in groups? Tell me everything first. Seeing that Han Fei calmed down, Lu Renquang finally said, Here's the thing. I received a mission today to deliver assets, which happened to be Xia Xiaochan's Dark Hunter Legion. It was a lot of spirit awakening fluid. I accidentally overheard that Xia Shaochan might be ill. Then, after I asked, I learned that Xia Shaochan left the team and went missing. Han Fei asked, Did you send someone to look for her? Lu Renquang replied, They refused to tell me. Han Fei frowned and his lips twitched. You didn't tell me about our relationship? If worse comes to worst, we can expose the Thug Academy. Lu Renquang said, I did. But they kicked me back. Han Fei's eyelids cramped. Son of AB****, when did this happen? Lu Renquang said, Just now. The assets must have just been delivered back to the logistics division. I came to you after learning the news. Han Fei clenched his fists, narrowed his eyes, and took a deep breath. If I go to the Dark Hunter Legion and ask them, will they talk to me? Lu Renquang said, I'm afraid not. The Dark Hunter Legion has always been secretive and won't tell anyone. Han Fei's lips shivered. Let's go. To the Empyrean Waterfall. The third update. Asking for votes, End of this chapter. Chapter 708. When he heard that Xia Shaochan was missing, Han Fei was furious. Xia Shaochan once said that the Dark Hunter Legion was actually not that dangerous, and the Dark Hunter Legion usually hunted in groups. If this was the case, then Xia Shaochan would definitely have a lot of companions when carrying out missions. What made him angry was that those people were still transporting supplies when Xia Shaochan was missing. Lu Renkuang had told him everything, but the other party still refused to tell him. That was too much. Originally, the moment Han Fei closed his eyes, the first thing he thought of was to find Jiang Qin or Old Jiang. However, on second thought, Old Jiang and Jiang Qin should be living in seclusion here. Once Old Jiang took action, it would inevitably attract attention from many parties. Similarly, it was impossible for Jiang Qin to lead a pioneer group to help him find Xia Shaochan alone. Therefore, Han Fei thought of Wang Dashui, this senior brother whom he had only met twice. The fishing boat had just flown dozens of kilometers when Han Fei suddenly turned and went straight to the skeleton shore camp. Lu Renkuang asked, "Where are you going?" "I need to get something." Yu Lingyun and the others hadn't returned to the skeleton shore yet, when they saw a streak of red light disappearing like a flash of light. Their faces changed. Ling Hui asked, "It's the captain. Has he returned to the camp?" Yu Lingyun nodded. "Let's go and have a look." On the skeleton shore, Chao Qiu occupied a large area by himself. The grass around him withered, the trees withered, and there was not even a single ant or flying insect. Chao Qiu was sitting in front of a large pot and muttered, "Well, I must get some benefits from him this time. I'll get the antidote first and then ask him for spirit awakening fluid, at least 800 caddies. Yes, that's the price." Swish. Bam. Chao Qiu's perception trembled. He just sensed that something was coming. In the next second, Han Fei appeared in front of him. Chao Qiu looked stunned. "What's wrong? Have you thought it through?" "Let me tell you, I've spent a lot this time. Why do you look so pale?" Without saying a word, Han Fei grabbed the waist tag on Chao Qiu's waist. He stuck the waist tag on his own waist tag. "New god of poison, give it to me." Chao Qiu shook his head. "No." "Where are you going?" Chao Qiu saw Han Fei holding 2 waist tags in front of him, and on his waist tag too. 16 million points were added. Chao Qiu was stunned. When did Han Fei become so generous? He actually transferred all of his points to me? This doesn't make sense. This is Han Fei, he's so stingy. Even if he bought it with credit points, he could buy more than 400 caddies of spirit awakening fluid with 16 million credit points. Han Fei gave all his points to him, which was obviously not a simple thing. Chao Qiu was not a fool. What happened? Han Fei threw his waist tag to him and then stretched out his hand. A golden harpoon appeared in his hand and he stabbed it into the ground. "I'll trade a semi-divine weapon for a strike from a peak-level hidden fisher." Chao Qiu opened his mouth wide. "Can you tell me what happened first?" No matter how stupid Chao Qiu was, he found that something was wrong. Han Fei was crazy. A semi-divine weapon. In fact, he only had one in his treasury. As a result, Han Fei casually threw one out. This thing was definitely enough for a strike from a peak-level hidden fisher, or even more. Without thinking, Chao Qiu took out an ancient jade. "Han Fei, let me tell you, don't be impulsive. You're not going to kill a hidden fisher, are you? It's very dangerous." Han. Swish. Han Fei had already jumped onto the fishing boat, turned into a red light, and flew away. Yu Lingyun and the others came late. They looked at the golden harpoon in front of Chao Qiu curiously. Wu Xiaoxiao asked, "Captain Chao, did our captain come just now?" Chao Qiu shivered. "You came just in time. What happened to Han Fei? Why is he so popular today?" Yu Lingyun added, "It seems that one of our captain's former teammates is missing." His. Chao Qiu was stunned. "Who? Xia Shaochan?" Chao Qiu was only familiar with Xia Shaochan, not Lu Renkuang and the others. Therefore, his first reaction was Xia Xiaochan. Wu Xiaoxiao was surprised. Captain Qiao, do you know her? Chao Qiu immediately slapped his thigh. I'm screwed. Other people might not know Han Fei very well, but he did. Back then, he chased Han Fei from the seaborne prairie to the undersea city. It was said that Han Fei trapped and killed 1,000 people. At that time, Han Fei was also looking for Xia Xiaochan. This time, Xia Xiaochan was missing. Also, judging from Han Fei's look just now, he was terrifyingly fierce. Chao Qiu even suspected that Han Fei would kill him if he didn't give him poison or ancient jade. Only Ling Hui stared at the harpoon and asked, Captain Chao, does this harpoon belong to a sea demon? Chao Qiu nodded. A semi-divine weapon. Chao Qiu was thinking about Han Fei. He subconsciously blurted it out, but then he immediately covered his mouth. Putting away the golden harpoon, he said, Don't ask. You don't know anything about what happened today. Yu Lingyun, you are now officially the captain of the 37th Squad. Find someone from the 66th Squad to make up for the team. Yu Lingyun's eyes widened. Why? Captain Chao, our captain just left for something. Chao Qiu rolled his eyes. What do you know? Judging from Han Fei's behavior just now, something must have happened. Although he had a good relationship with Han Fei, he could only make up for it. For example, he could first get the 37th Squad out of this matter. Otherwise, once something happened, according to the strict system of the Scattered Stars Island, the 37th Squad would definitely be questioned. Chao Qiu immediately said, This is an order. And none of you are allowed to disclose what happened today. If anyone asks, just say that Han Fei has already resigned. You've formed a new team. The Empyrean Waterfall. On the periphery of the twisted jungle, under a high cliff. This cliff was more than 1,800 meters high, straight up and down, without any obstacles or fault. Therefore, when the water fell, it was particularly loud. Because the water had been falling in the air for too long and the wind here was not small, the Empyrean Waterfall was always foggy. The Empyrean Waterfall was most famous for its underwater pool. This pool was connected to the depths of the Scattered Stars Island. It was said that there were monsters living in the pool. At first, some peak-level hanging fishers went into the pool to explore, but they didn't come up. Later, some hidden fishers went deep, but they also didn't come up. In the end, a law enforcer went in and came out seriously injured. That person only said that no one was allowed to enter the altar without permission from now on. In order to prevent the creatures in the altar from coming and going, a small camp was set up here. Some particularly eccentric people would live here, such as the door-carrying marshal. However, at this moment, Han Fei was not in the mood to think about the secrets of the Empyrean Waterfall, let alone enjoy the scenery. Lu Renquang had been here before. The last time he came here, he asked Wang Dashuai to go to the Scattered Stars prison to rescue Han Fei. Therefore, this time, Lu Renquang went straight to Wang Dashuai's residence. Wang Dashuai's residence was actually quite unique, with a small plantation. However, the area was not large, only less than a kilometer. Junior brothers, why are you here today? Before Han Fei and the others called the door, they saw Wang Dashuai coming out of the twisted jungle. He ran all the way, and the ground was trembling because of him. Han Fei didn't look very good. He took a breath and said, Senior brother, help me. Wang Dashuai was taken aback. Why do you look so serious?
Who bullied you?
Let's go. I'll kill them. Han Fei said straightforwardly, Senior brother, can you break into the Dark Hunter Legion? Wang Dashuai paused and the smile on his face suddenly disappeared. He smacked his lips and said, It's a big deal. No problem, I can break into it. Han Fei smiled. Senior brother, I may beat them. Wang Dashuai smiled and said, It's okay. What's the big deal about beating them? I'll take responsibility for you. The three of them turned around and left. Han Fei suddenly said, Quang Quang, go back. Lu Renquang immediately said angrily, F***ck off. This is not only your business but also mine. Han Fei nodded. Okay, then let's go together. Let's see if they will tell us anything. Han Fei sneered. If the Dark Hunter Legion still didn't tell him the reason, he would have to call old Jiang or Jiang Qin. Wang Dashui chuckled and said, Don't worry. It's the Dark Hunter Legion. Their highest commander is only a peak-level hidden fisher. He is definitely not in the Legion. As for the others, he can tell them. But, junior brother, what's going on? Han Fei said with a straight face, Xia Shaochan is missing, but the Dark Hunter Legion won't say anything. Wang Dashui nodded seriously. Then we have to ask them. The Dark Hunter Legion was arguably the most mysterious of all the organizations on the Scattered Stars Island. Even if outsiders knew where they were, they would often find that they couldn't find a single person when they walked in. After all, being a hunter was one of the best professions in concealing oneself. Especially in the Dark Hunter Legion, whether it was day or night, they were usually in a hidden state and didn't move often. At this moment, in a quiet forest, several hunters were secretly talking to each other. Suddenly, above the sky, a huge thing flew over. Who is it? Thud. A large tree was smashed in half, and several hunters leaped out of it. On the ground where grass and leaves were flying, a corner of a big green gate was inserted into the ground. Within a radius of 200 meters, all the weeds were bent by the wind. Fourth update. Please vote. Fourth update first. I'll update at about 8 p.m. I'm still eating and drinking at noon. Happy New Year to everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 709. On the Scattered Stars Island, no matter which organization it was, they would basically not guard against the dangers from the island itself. When the big green door fell from the sky, someone discovered that something was wrong. However, when they discovered it, it was already too late. The big green door crashed to the ground, shaking the ground within dozens of kilometers. Amidst the flying grass, Wang Dashui, Han Fei, and Lu Renquang stood quietly beside the big green door. Wang Dashui roared like a beast king, shaking the grass and leaves. Dark Hunter Legion, come out to meet me. Generally speaking, for a relatively large organization like the Dark Hunter Legion, the strength of the commanders was quite strong. There were many 6-star commanders, and there were also 7-star commanders. However, this was not the headquarters of the Dark Hunter Legion. Therefore, it was already extremely rare for a deputy commander with a 6-star rank to appear. More than 500 hunters were approaching them at this moment. Many people were hiding in trees, grass, and even underground. There were more than 80 people who walked out with their real bodies. These people directly surrounded Han Fei and the others. Han Fei looked around and easily found Shui Ran, who seemed to be the captain of Xia Xiaochan's team, among this group of people. When Shui Ran saw Han Fei, she was slightly taken aback, and then her eyes narrowed slightly. However, when someone saw Lu Renquang, he immediately frowned and said, It's you again? Didn't I tell you? Outsiders don't need to know about the Dark Hunter Legion. It was a man who looked indifferent and was not intimidated by Wang Dashui's 6-star waist tag. After all, he himself was a 5-star. Otherwise, he wouldn't be qualified to stand in front of these people. Swish. The moment this person said this, Han Fei drew his knife and used the draw technique with all his strength, falling directly in front of this person in an instant. Han Fei, who had mastered the air-breaking strike, attacked shockingly fast. The man didn't expect that Han Fei dared to suddenly attack in front of so many people. Besides, this attack was extremely fierce. The knife light seemed to have locked on him and didn't give him any time to react. An ultra-quality battlesuit appeared on this hunter's body, and a scorpion phantom appeared behind him. The 2 daggers in his hands slashed out 16 times in a row with all his strength. Together with the stinger of the scorpion, he barely blocked Han Fei's draw technique. Gotcha! After blocking Han Fei's attack, the ultra-quality dagger in the hunter's hand was directly broken. How dare you? How dare you? Brat, you're courting death. The hunter who was attacked said gloomily, Where are you from? How dare you pick a fight with the Dark Hunter Legion? Han Fei glanced at him coldly and pointed at Lu Renquang.
Are you the one who refused to answer his question?
Han Fei raised his knife. Yes, so what? Han raised his knife. I didn't use my full strength. If you had met me on the sea, you would have died. Among them, a woman wrapped in tight black clothes took a few steps forward and said with an unfriendly expression, What's the meaning of this, door-carrying marshal? Did you bring 2 little guys to make trouble in the Dark Hunter Legion? Wang Dashui put a hand on the big green door. I'm here to ask about Junior Sister's whereabouts. If you don't make it clear, I'll smash the Dark Hunter Legion. The 6-star hunter's eyes were cold. I'm Pei Yi from the 3rd Regiment of the Dark Hunter Legion. I've long heard of door-carrying commander. Let's see what you've done today. As soon as he said that, Pei Yi disappeared. The spiritual energy under Wang Dashui's feet trembled, and the big green door rose from the ground and flew into the air. As Wang Dashui punched the big green door, the sound waves rippled like a great bell. Then he suddenly turned his head to the right, grabbed the big green door with one hand, and slammed it down like lightning. The 100-meter-long shadow of the green door suddenly smashed down. Thud! The hunters in that direction were all shocked and rushed to both sides, trying to escape the attack range of the big green door. However, they didn't expect that Wang Dashui and the big green door, which looked rather clumsy, were extremely fast. Pei Yi had only appeared because she had no other choice. Her 5-star subordinates couldn't resist Wang Dashui's blow. So, she stood in front of those people. Thud! Pei Yi flew out like a black shadow in the midst of a deafening roar, and all the hunters within 100 meters of the great verdant gate's shadow spat out blood one after another. Dozens of trees were blasted apart by the door. Han Fei and Lu Renquang, who hadn't seen Wang Dashui fight before, looked at each other at this moment. This simple-looking senior brother was a little too violent. The other party was also a 6-star powerhouse, but he couldn't even resist one blow from him. Moreover, more than 30 hunters with 5 stars and those with even lower stars who were hiding in the dark were injured by this attack. Thud! Wang Dashui inserted the big green door into the ground again. Now, can you answer the question properly? When Pei Yi came out of the forest, blood was flowing from the corner of her mouth, and she looked at Wang Dashui with a weird look. However, neither Wang Dashui nor Han Fei cared about it. I'm here to ask questions. Didn't you refuse to cooperate? Didn't you refuse to answer? Fine, I'll beat you until you cooperate and answer. Pei Yi gritted her teeth. Door-carrying marshal, don't forget the rules of the Scattered Stars Island. Wang Dashui grinned and smiled.
My junior sister is missing, and you want to talk about rules with me?
Let me ask you, will you answer or not? Wang Dashui was so domineering at this moment that hundreds of people didn't dare to answer him. Pei Yi looked uncertain. She was not one of those 4 or 5-star weaklings. As one of the deputy commanders of the Dark Hunter Legion, she knew a lot of things. On the Scattered Stars Island, there were always some people who didn't follow the rules. The brutal men living above the Empyrean waterfall, on the other hand, were usually unreasonable. It was exactly because of this that they were placed in such a dangerous place as the Empyrean waterfall. Pei Yi compromised. Xia Xiaochan was missing, and people from her sect came to her. It seemed that she had to give them an explanation. Although she had contacted her captain, he probably wouldn't arrive for a while. But if Wang Dashui was allowed to continue, the consequences would be bad. Pei Yi said, Shui Ran, Yuan Heng, and Fang Rou, step out. After the 3 of them stepped out, Pei Yi said, the 3 of them led the 30 hunters on this mission. You can ask them. However, door-carrying marshal, let me remind you that you've broken the rules. Don't blame the law enforcement team and the Scattered Stars prison for finding you. Wang Dashui chuckled and didn't take it seriously. He looked at Han Fei. Junior brother, ask them. Han Fei only knew Shui Ran, so when Shui Ran stepped out, Han Fei knew that she must know something. Han Fei stared at him coldly. How many of the 30 hunters came back alive? Shui Ran was stunned. She thought that Han Fei would ask directly, but she didn't know why Han Fei started the conversation. However, Shui Ran didn't expect that Han Fei would be so domineering and tough as to find helpers to break into the Dark Hunter Legion. Shui Ran said, 20 of them came back alive. Han Fei slightly narrowed his eyes. The probability of death was more than 30%. This mission couldn't be simple. Han Fei asked, "What mission are you on?" Shui Ran frowned and looked at Pei Yi. Pei Yi nodded and said, "If he dares to ask, just tell him." Shui Ran looked at Han Fei thoughtfully. "This mission is to enter the undersea chimney and snatch the spirit awakening fluid." Han Fei's pupils suddenly constricted. He probably knew why Xia Shaochan had an attack. The last time Xia Shaochan had an attack was after he killed the half-mermaids on the skeleton shore. At that time, he offered Xia Shaochan the spirit awakening fluid, but Xia Shaochan refused, claiming that she had made rapid progress recently and was afraid that she couldn't suppress it. It had been a long time since then, but Xia Shaochan didn't have an attack. But entering the undersea chimney this time was a big deal. Whether it was dangerous or not, the spirit awakening fluid alone might destroy Xia Shaochan's suppression of strength. Han Fei took a breath and continued, "Tell me what happened." Shui Ran glanced at the tree not far away on the right. "Gong Wenhai Yang Ying, come down." Han Fei was a bit unfriendly when he saw Gong Wenhai. He hated this person. However, he knew Xia Shaochan's temper very well. With Gong Wenhai's strength, it would be impossible for him to take advantage of Xia Shaochan. As for Yang Ying, she looked very ordinary. She had an average face, was thin, and had protruding cheekbones. Like most other hunters, she was very cold. Yang Ying looked at Han Fei coldly too. She must have hated Han Fei's behavior at this moment. Gong Wenhai was also gloomy when he saw Han Fei. However, there was a hint of mockery in his eyes. Last time, he couldn't resist Han Fei's attack, which was embarrassing enough. This time, although Han Fei broke into the Dark Hunter Legion with his men, it wasn't so easy to break into the Dark Hunter Legion. Did he really think that nothing would happen to him after he broke into the Dark Hunter Legion? Han Fei looked at Shui Ran. By logic, you should have 10 people in each group. Why are there only 2 of them? Without waiting for Shui Ran to speak, Gong Wenhai said, "Out of the 30 people, 6 of them died in our group." Han Fei's eyelids slightly shivered. "Tell me what happened." Gong Wenhai sneered. "What happened?" At that time, the inferior manfish, the red demons, the half-mermaids, and many other sea creatures broke into the undersea chimney with us. It was very chaotic, but when we were competing for the spirit awakening fluid, Xia Shaochan suddenly went on a rampage and attacked her companions. 3 people in our team were heavily wounded by Xia Shaochan, and our location was exposed. We were surrounded by sea demons. Later, we had to ask for help. Next to him, Yang Ying said, "Because of that, 6 people in our team died." As she spoke, Yang Ying raised her left hand, which was missing a little finger. Yang Ying said, "It was cut by Xia Shaochan. If I hadn't reacted in time, my whole hand would have been gone." Gong Wenhai said, "It's true that I like Xia Shaochan, but I can't deny that she has become a traitor to mankind. She did do that." Han Fei raised his hand and his knife. "Next time, think before you speak. Don't talk nonsense that you shouldn't. Otherwise, there will be serious consequences." 5th update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 710. Gong Wenhai smiled at Han Fei's threat. Gong Wenhai sneered. "Yang Ying and I saw Xia Shaochan going on a rampage with our own eyes. Captain Shui Ran saw it too. Do you think we're lying?" Han Fei said indifferently, "Who knows if you did anything to her? For example, you might have poisoned her or used illusions. You'd better shut up if you don't have solid evidence." There was anger in Gong Wenhai's eyes. You're being unreasonable. Do you want to kill me? Han Fei said coldly. For what you said, I'll definitely kill you if I meet you on the sea in the future. Gong Wenhai raised his eyebrows. He was intimidated by Han Fei's murderous eyes. This guy really wanted to kill him. Shui Ran said coldly, Your name is Han Fei, right? You'd better think before you speak. Han Fei squinted at her. I didn't ask you anything. Shut up. Shui Ran froze. Isn't this young man a little too arrogant? Why don't you take a look at whose territory you're in? In fact, Han Fei didn't intend to save face this time. Even if Wang Dashui couldn't take care of the Dark Hunter Legion, Jiang Qin or old Jiang could. He didn't care about that. What he cared about was where Xia Shaochan was. Other people might not be able to find Xia Shaochan, but he could. With Little White, the omnipotent tracker, it was only a matter of time before he found Xia Shaochan. Han Fei continued to ask, Was Xia Shaochan injured at that time? Yang Ying replied, No. Xia Shaochan went on a rampage too suddenly and ran away by herself. At that time, the situation was too chaotic for us to be distracted. Gong Wenhai chased her, but failed. Han Fei glanced at Gong Wenhai, who looked at Han Fei mockingly. She ran to the deep sea. You know how fast Xia Shaochan is. I don't need to tell you. Also, let me correct you. I didn't chase her alone. A sea demon chased after her too. Han Fei frowned. What are you trying to say? Gong Wenhai shut up. That was all he wanted to say. There were two possibilities why a sea demon chased Xia Shaochan. The first one was that Xia Shaochan killed the sea demon and the sea demon chased after her. If Xia Shaochan was really a traitor of mankind, the consequences would be very serious. Han Fei looked at Pei Yi. Where is the undersea chimney? Pei Yi shook her head. It's useless even if you know. That place had already been occupied by sea demons and marine creatures. At this time, the battle should be almost over. The undersea chimney should have been flattened. Han Fei said calmly, Position? Pei Yi smiled coldly. 8,000 miles south of the Hell Coast. But if I remember correctly, door-carrying marshal, you're forbidden from going out to sea, right? Han Fei was taken aback. Wang Dashui was restricted from going to sea? Han Fei had never thought about that. He had always felt that Wang Dashui stayed on the Scattered Stars Island for some other reason. Didn't he say that he had 2 senior brothers and senior sisters outside? After coming to the Scattered Stars Island for so long, he had never seen them. Why was Wang Dashui the only one who was restricted from going to sea? Wang Dashui, it doesn't matter. It's not impossible to go there. Senior brother, I'll go by myself. Lu Renquang added, Me too. Han Fei glanced at Lu Renquang. You can't. You're so talented, but you refuse to cultivate. You'll only hold us back. Heh. You, an intermediate hanging fisher, want to go to sea? Or go 8,000 miles away? Gong Wenhai sneered, his eyes full of mockery. Han Fei glanced at him. I hate sarcastic people the most. Now I have one more reason to kill you. Gong Wenhai's face darkened and he immediately felt very angry. Han Fei really didn't take him seriously. However, when Gong Wenhai was about to speak, a voice came from the sky. Don't even think about going to sea. Come back to the Scattered Stars prison with me. As soon as this voice fell, another person said, Wang Dashui, you broke into the Dark Hunter Legion and hurt my men. Do you think there's no one in the Dark Hunter Legion? Zhang Ting from the Scattered Stars prison came. Almost at the same time as him, a cold middle-aged man arrived. Wang Dashui scratched his head. It's a bit troublesome, but it doesn't matter. Little junior brother, why don't you go? It's a bit dangerous. I'll figure out a way to go in person later. Han Fei shook his head. Senior brother, if there's anyone who can find Xia Shaochan as soon as possible, I'm afraid it's me. Wang Dashui glanced at Han Fei seriously. Do you have to go? Han Fei nodded. Of course. Wang Dashui grinned. Good job, junior brother. I'll stop these 2 people for you. You can go now. As soon as Wang Dashui said this, Zhang Ting and the cold man in the sky changed their expressions at the same time. Zhang Ting said, Wang Dashui, don't make a mistake. I have reason to suspect that Xia Xiaochan has betrayed mankind. I'm taking Han Fei away just for routine questioning. Han Fei glanced at Zhang Ting. F*CKU. As soon as Han Fei said this, everyone present changed their expressions. He insulted a 7-star powerhouse and provoked the current warden of the Scattered Stars prison in public. Was there something wrong with his sea-swallowing seashell? However, Han Fei simply took out the wind god boat and jumped on it. Zhang Ting's face couldn't be more awful. Han Fei, do you know what you're doing now? Swish. A streak of light flashed across the sky, and the wind god boat rushed out at full speed. Zhang Ting and the cold man threw out their fishing hooks almost at the same time. But on the ground, a roar burst out, shaking the space and rolling airwaves. Wang Dashui picked up the big green gate and stepped into the air. Dazzling green light burst out from his body. At this time, the big green gate turned into a shadow of a giant gate hundreds of meters long and slapped at the two people with dazzling green light. Han Fei had thought about it carefully. If he didn't leave this time and was taken away by Zhang Ting, he would definitely be monitored again. Even though he was now a member of the Scattered Stars First Unit, he had only experienced one mission and didn't have a solid foundation. Even if Zhang Ting didn't kill him, as long as he stalled him for a few days, it would be really difficult to find Xia Xiaochan later. Besides, if what Gong Wenhai said was true, if Xia Xiaochan's illness was over and she found a way to come back, it would be a big problem. It was obvious that he would be taken to the Scattered Stars prison. At that time, unless he found old Jiang, it would be impossible to save her from Wang Dashui. But Han Fei felt that old Jiang actually had a lot of restrictions on the Scattered Stars Island. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lived in the Twisted Jungle. Therefore, after Han Fei found Xia Xiaochan, he probably wouldn't return to the Scattered Stars Island in a short time. His idea was to first find a way to kill some half-mermaid heavenly talents and then use military exploits to shut their mouth. At the same time, Han Fei also needed to go to the sea. He had to go to the sea eventually. He needed to find the right time and the right place to deduce the 5th level of the void fishing art. But if he wanted to kill 100 people on the Scattered Stars Island, he could only wait for a mission or wait for the sea demons to attack. No matter how frequent the missions were and how fierce the war was, it would be difficult for him to advance without several months, so he naturally wouldn't be qualified to go to the sea. Therefore, Han Fei chose to go to the sea by force. Although this behavior would lead to a lot of consequences, Han Fei didn't care so much at this moment. In this damn place, others wouldn't care about your life or death. Xia Xiaochan was also a heavenly talent, but in this case, no one would care about her life or death. However, others didn't care, but Han Fei did. If he took Lu Renquang and the others with him, he would be a big target, and it would be faster if he went alone. 8,000 kilometers, this distance was actually not far. With the speed of the wind god boat, it only took less than 2 hours to arrive. However, Han Fei's speed was too fast and attracted the attention of many people and creatures. In fact, on the sea outside the Scattered Stars Island, there were also battlefields and front lines, but Han Fei and the others couldn't get in touch with them before. On the way, Han Fei happened to pass by a chaotic battle. It was a battle between human beings and half-mermaids, led by a 7-star powerhouse. When Han Fei's wind god boat passed by, the 7-star powerhouse only had time to ask, 4-star, how dare you go to the sea? Then, there was nothing else. The wind god boat turned into a stream of light and flew away. The powerhouse had to attend to the battlefield, and had no time to chase after him. For example, during the flight of the wind god boat, Han Fei saw half-mermaids appear on the sea, and red demons occasionally jumped out of the sea, but most of them were ordinary inferior manfish, jumping on the sea. Besides, they would foolishly chase the red light left by the wind god boat and run for a few steps. In addition to the sea demons, Han Fei saw a school of fish passing by, which was the star sea flying fish. They could turn into a beam of light in midair and dash thousands of meters forward. Their ability was comparable to teleportation. There were also dragon-like creatures, whose huge bodies swept across the sea. On the water surface, huge black shadows were reflected. Just by observing it with the naked eye, it reminded people of deep-sea monsters. Along the way, Han Fei encountered no less than 50 exotic creatures in the sea area of 8,000 kilometers. Some of the creatures had already fled the moment Han Fei sensed it, or looked at Han Fei from the bottom of the ocean with crooked eyes. Wow! The unknown place is really much more terrifying than the Level 3 fishery. 6th update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 7:11. When Han Fei found the so-called undersea chimney, there was still a lot of fighting. The spirit awakening fluid was long gone. However, the sea creatures' corpses were everywhere. The powerful sea creatures had all left, leaving only countless ordinary or rare creatures fighting and devouring the broken corpses crazily. The so-called undersea chimney was actually a kind of mountain pass similar to an undersea volcano. However, Han Fei could no longer see the whole picture of the so-called undersea chimney because the upper layer had been crushed and boulders were everywhere. Han Fei's first thought when he came here was that he needed the spiritual energy in front of him. Yes, too many sea creatures had died here, and their corpses almost covered the seabed. There were ordinary creatures that joined in at all times, making this place seem like it was in chaos. Due to the fact that far too many living beings had perished here, the spiritual qi here was also abnormally abundant. Han Fei glanced at the 500,000 points of spiritual energy he had stored. If he encountered something serious, this amount of spiritual energy would definitely not be enough. He now needed at least 100 million points of spiritual energy that could be continuously output. And here, in an undersea chimney that had just been flattened, the corpses of tens of millions of creatures gathered. Although a lot of spiritual energy had dissipated, Han Fei thought it should be easy to get a few million points of spiritual energy here. Of course, Han Fei had to find Xia Shaochan, but he needed to have enough spiritual energy to support him. Otherwise, if an accident happened and a battle broke out, it would be difficult for him to fight again and again. After all, to put it bluntly, he was only an intermediate hanging fisher, and theoretically, he was not qualified to come to the open sea at all. After confirming that there were no exotic creatures here, Han Fei put away the fishing boat and jumped into the sea. Almost in an instant, thousands of creatures came at Han Fei and tore at him. All kinds of knife lights, thorns, flying needles and poisons were sprayed at Han Fei. And in Han Fei's body, 200 blue sea wandering dragon daggers burst out. Outside his body, they formed a sphere and began to spin crazily. Absorb. He couldn't control the blue sea wandering dragon daggers for long, which was related to his spiritual power. However, in Han Fei's current situation, under such crazy attacks, he could probably only persist for half an hour, or even less. So Han Fei quickly dove to the bottom of the sea, stepped on a spirit-gathering array, and spiritual energy swept Han Fei like a storm. Logically speaking, creatures above level 40 knew how to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. At least in the level 3 fishery, the sea creatures already knew the importance of life. However, at this very moment, the creatures here had completely gone berserk, forming a scene of moths flying into a flame. Han Fei was that fire. At this moment, spiritual energy from all directions converged toward him. Even though countless supreme-grade spiritual weapons were spinning crazily around him, there were still countless creatures charging towards him. The center of Han Fei's eyebrows was flashing, and a tremendous amount of spiritual energy was poured in, which was much faster than swallowing spiritual fruits. On average, about 20,000 points of spiritual energy flowed into his body every second. However, after 100 minutes, Han Fei found that the 10,000 knives in one couldn't hold on any longer, mainly because his spiritual power couldn't hold on any longer. Immediately, the seawater within 100 meters of Han Fei became sticky, and countless water blades surged. Almost all living beings within 100 meters were instantly torn to shreds. The infinity water was a treasure of the city, but Han Fei couldn't exert its real value yet. At present, Han Fei's only understanding of the infinity water was that he could turn the sea into knives with his mind. However, the strength of this water knife was still much weaker than the real 10,000 knives in one. Besides, the infinity water also consumed Han Fei's mind and spiritual power, but it was slightly less than controlling the 10,000 knives in one. Unfortunately, after another 100 minutes, Han Fei felt a little dizzy. There were too many creatures. He could absorb spiritual energy with the demon purification pot, but it couldn't withstand the crazy attacks of so many creatures. So, after absorbing more than 4 million points of spiritual energy, Han Fei escaped from the undersea chimney. Han Fei suddenly disappeared, and the next moment, he had appeared in Forge the Universe. Looking at the reserve of spiritual energy, Han Fei sighed slightly. He was too reckless when he was on the Scattered Stars Island. At that time, he was unscrupulous because he had a lot of spiritual energy. But when he subdued Snowmorn in the Snow God's Temple, he almost used up the available spiritual energy in Forge the Universe. The remaining ultra-quality spiritual stones only added up to 10 million points of spiritual energy, which was far from enough. Han Fei stuffed about 30 spiritual fruits into his mouth and cultivated for an hour. After completely digesting and absorbing the spiritual fruit, the reserve of spiritual energy reached 7 million points. With this number, Han Fei immediately threw the half-mermaid's golden battlesuit into the demon purification pot. A moment later, to Han Fei's great regret, he spent nearly 2.5 million points of spiritual energy to refine a new battlesuit. Named Golden Battlesuit Introduction, this is a battlesuit made of red sun mystic crystals. It weighs 108,000 kilograms and contains a metal barrier inside. When attacked, it can reflect half of the power. Quality semi-divine weapon attached, none recastable, unrefined. Note: due to the limited forging materials, it can be cast into a semi-divine weapon at most. Sitting cross-legged and cultivating for an hour, Han Fei opened his eyes, flashed, and appeared at the bottom of the sea. As soon as Han Fei appeared, a king insect in front of him was so scared that it immediately ran away. Han Fei didn't care about it. He spread out his senses and didn't find any unusual creatures within a radius of more than 30 kilometers. So, with a flash between Han Fei's eyebrows, Little Black and Little White appeared. Because of the restrictions on the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei hadn't summoned Little Black and Little White for a long time, except for the time in the Snow God's Temple. At this moment, Han Fei touched Little White's head and said, "Daughter, find Xia Shaochan and the hexagon starfish." With a whoosh, Little Black leaped out and directly bit through a snake-patterned fish. It also shook its head and tore a few mouthfuls. Han Fei said angrily, "Come back! This is not the time to play. Don't run around." Little White had turned around several times. At first, it aimed at the undersea chimney not far away, but then it changed its direction and aimed at the deep sea. Han Fei's heart sank. Xia Shaochan had indeed gone to the deep sea. On the undersea chimney's side, because the spirit awakening fluid had been snatched up and a large number of ordinary and rare creatures had gathered there, Han Fei and some powerful creatures avoided it. After all, no matter how strong the exotic creatures or the inferior manfish were, they couldn't last long under the attack of the endless ordinary sea creatures. Even he, with the help of the 10,000 knives in one and the infinity water, could only hold on for about 200 breaths, which was less than the time for half an incense stick to burn. Han Fei looked back, a little reluctant. If he wasn't in such a hurry, He could probably go there to absorb a wave of spiritual energy every 3 hours or so on average. One day was enough for him to accumulate more than 10 million points of spiritual energy. However, time waited for no man. It had been 3 hours since he set off from the Scattered Stars Island. And it had been even longer since Xia Xiaochan got sick and ran to the depths of the ocean. It had probably been more than 16 hours. In this extremely dangerous unknown place, Han Fei knew nothing about the periphery of the Scattered Stars Island. Neither did Xia Xiaochan. At this time, he could only pray that Xia Xiaochan's illness was over and that she would be pulled into the gate by the hexagon starfish. If that was the case, the odds of finding her would be very high. The hexagon starfish was a professional when it came to escaping for his life. The hexagon starfish had so many array heritages, which were not for fun. However, after Han Fei swam for more than 200 kilometers, suddenly, an extremely sharp sound pierced into his head. Han Fei grunted. When he scanned with his perception, he found that more than 3,000 meters away, a transparent creature was rolling in the tide and charging at him. Han Fei immediately spat, grabbed 2 clumps of mud, and stuffed his ears, while pretending to swim forward casually. However, the result of closing his ears didn't weaken the sharp sound much. When he was a kilometer away, Han Fei vomited a mouthful of blood. "Damn it, what's that? Little Black, bite it to death." The transparent creature naturally couldn't find Little Black. So, after Little Black bit off half of its body, it stopped screaming. At this moment, Han Fei also arrived, and information popped up in his eyes. Name: Tsunami Jellyfish. Introduction: This is an exotic creature that can absorb sound. It can transform sound into a sharp power to break through the enemy's mental barrier, wound or kill the enemy, and then absorb the enemy's spiritual power. When encountering an enemy, the tsunami jellyfish can mislead the enemy into discovering its real location through the vibration of sound, so that it can escape in an orderly manner. Contains a sharp pearl inside. Eating it can increase spiritual power. Level 46 quality, exotic spiritual energy greater than 6,124 points. Effect: it can increase spiritual power after eating. Collectible sharp pearl absorbable. When he saw the creature, Han Fei thought of something. Little Black, don't bite it. Keep it alive. Han Fei caught the tsunami jellyfish. He found that what would happen if the tsunami jellyfish was sealed into a knife? Would it make such a sharp sound when it attacked and pierce into the enemy's mind? Immediately, Han Fei took out the blood-drinking knife and sealed a spirit without hesitation. The 7th chapter. Please vote. Today's the 7th chapter. I wish you a happy new year without drinking. End of this chapter. Chapter 7:12. Schwa. Han Fei slashed at a sand-skinned shrimp with the blood-drinking knife that had been sealed again. When the saber radiance was 500 meters away from it, the sand-skinned shrimp suddenly froze. It hadn't realized what was going on until it was cut in half by Han Fei. Immediately, Han Fei's eyes flickered. Sure enough, the ocean was the place that really made people stronger. He had only been out of the Scattered Stars Island for more than 6 hours, and he had already found a creature like the tsunami jellyfish. It was of great significance. If the half-mermaid Heavenly Talent had such a moment of shock when he fought him, he wouldn't have needed to fight the half-mermaid Heavenly Talent at all. In a sense, this was more practical than increasing the speed of the saber gleam by 30%, and it would catch people off guard. However, on the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei had never seen a creature like the tsunami jellyfish, not even once. It also indicated that many resources on the Scattered Stars Island were relatively barren. It was like a rear base in the unknown place, and the people on the Scattered Stars Island were equivalent to the staff of the base. On the other hand, only those who fought outside the ocean could be considered true warriors. Only then could they grow rapidly. On the Scattered Stars Island, those who seemed to be scared of the invasion of sea demons every day were actually equivalent to civil servants and were the safest. The higher the safety factor, the slower their growth would be. For example, it was impossible for them to catch a tsunami jellyfish in the offshore waters, because the tsunami jellyfish wouldn't approach the offshore area at all. Little White continued to lead the way. After swimming for less than 100 kilometers, Han Fei saw an overwhelming swarm of red poison cuttlefish charging at him like missiles. Han Fei was lost for words. They weren't targeting him, but he happened to be in their way. Han Fei jumped straight to the upper water area. Once so many poisonous cuttlefish were alarmed, they would spew venom crazily. If it were any other time, Han Fei could try his best. After all, the Heaven Spirit detoxifying insect needed time to grow. Since he had the Heaven Spirit detoxifying insect, it was still level 31 and hadn't reached 32 yet. But now was a special time, and Han Fei didn't want to waste time on it. However, as soon as Han Fei swam to the upper water area, he sensed a large group of thousands of winged fish rushing at him. Han Fei. In his perception, those winged fishes' mouths were several meters wide when opened, and their entire bodies were close to 5 or 6 meters long. The fins on both sides were straight like the wings of a plane. No matter how one looked at it, it didn't look like anything good. Han Fei was about to dodge again. However, he was also curious about what kind of creature it was. Therefore, he only dodged slightly. As a result, when the big-mouthed flying fish saw Han Fei, it split into dozens of them and swooped at Han Fei. When he saw the information of this fish, he was speechless. A ray fish? This was clearly a manta ray. How did it turn into a ray? Name Flying Ray. Introduction. An extremely fast skate that likes to eat shrimps and red poison cuttlefish. Their fins were like 2 blades or wings, capable of slashing their enemies. The Flying Ray's mouth contained nirvana water, which could quickly corrode its enemies. It was extremely difficult to break free from the Flying Ray's attack. Level 46 Quality Rare Spiritual Energy greater than 4,366 points. Effect. Long-term consumption can increase speed. A collectible, blade feather, absorbable. Han Fei was lost for words. It was only a rare creature, but it was already level 46? There was also the nirvana water. Although he didn't know what it was theoretically impossible for the Flying Rays to swim so fast with their mouths open. Therefore, their bodies must have a drainage function. Han Fei sensed again, only to discover that the fish didn't have abdomens. Their mouths were connected to their abdomens, which were made of bones like gills. Han Fei was stunned. Is this a zombie fish? You don't even have a stomach. How can you eat anything? Han Fei slashed the blood-drinking knife. In an instant, half of the Flying Rays that swooped at Han Fei stopped swimming and simply let their bodies charge forward. Han Fei, on the other hand, slashed 5 Flying Rays with one slash, and the remaining Flying Rays simply swooshed back to their main team. Han Fei's face was gloomy. Was this the unknown place? Wasn't the frequency of encounters with shoals too high? He didn't even have time to accelerate. In the blink of an eye, he encountered a group, and in the blink of an eye, a group. It was either exotic creatures or this group and that group. An hour later, Han Fei's face was even darker. Just in the past 2 hours, he had encountered exotic creatures 3 times, shoals of fish 7 times, star ocean flying fish once, sky-facing razor clams once, and a flood snake. At this moment, Han Fei's head was even bigger. He had encountered a red demon? Yes, 30 kilometers away from Han Fei's perception, a red demon was sitting on the back of a lobster. It seemed to be in a slightly different direction from him. Therefore, the red demon shouldn't have discovered him. Han Fei was thinking whether he should kill this red demon or not. On second thought, Han Fei felt that he should kill it. This time, he had secretly left the Scattered Stars Island, which couldn't be settled with a few words when he went back. He had to come up with something convincing, such as a battle record. So, Han Fei set up a stealth array under his feet and then cast another one. Slowly, he approached the pass. Han Fei still didn't know what level the red demon was. If the other party was a big shot above level 50, then he would stand still and wait for it to pass. If not, retrieving Little Black and Little White, Han Fei moved very slowly, for fear that his actions would affect the normal flow of the seawater. Therefore, he was floating with the seawater. The red demon was holding a harpoon in its hand and glancing at him from time to time, which stunned Han Fei. Why does this guy look like he's patrolling? Name: Red Demon, Ordinary Sea Demon. Introduction: a sea demon with mature intelligence, cruel and bloodthirsty. Because of its relatively poor breed, it is impossible to determine what kind of creature it evolved from. It is extremely strong, good at mermaid tactics, and can control some marine creatures. It has a life spear in its body, which is the strongest blow of the red demon. Level 49 Spiritual Energy 7, 705 Demon Heritage, Level 4, High Quality, Realm Demon Transformation Companion Spirit, Silver Thorn Lobster, Unabsorbable. Han Fei was relieved to see that it was a Level 49 creature. Level 49, equivalent to a human peak-level hanging fisher, was not weak at all. If he were still a dangling fisher, he wouldn't be able to defeat it in a head-on battle. However, Han Fei was no longer what he used to be. He was already an intermediate hanging fisher, which was 3 levels higher than when he fought a peak-level hanging fisher, including a major realm. Han Fei slowly drew out the blood-drinking knife. As soon as Han Fei released his killing intent, the red demon jumped, clenched the harpoon in its hand, and set off a wave, rushing straight in Han Fei's direction. I've been discovered already? Haha, it's a pity that it's too late. Swish. Han Fei had already launched the draw technique, and his energy was at its peak. He had been preparing for this attack for a long time. In an instant, the knife light leaped dozens of meters away from the red demon. The other party paused slightly, and just for a moment, it lost its last chance to resist. The knife light swept past and directly cut the red demon in half. Han Fei rushed over. This was the first time he had killed a red demon of the level of a peak-level hanging fisher. The knife just now was very powerful, and it could be said to have condensed 30% of Han Fei's strength. This meant that, under normal circumstances, Han Fei could only use such a knife 3 times. Han Fei rummaged for a while. He remembered that half-mermaids and other sea-swallowing seashells were put in their stomach. So he grabbed with his big hand made of spiritual energy, and sure enough, he caught a sea-swallowing seashell. But it was sticky, and Han Fei didn't want to touch it with his hand at all. The associated spirit disappeared. Han Fei threw the red demon's body into Forge the Universe and glanced at the red demon's sea-swallowing seashell. Then his eyes lit up. He found that there were more than 100 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid in this sea-swallowing seashell. In addition to the spirit awakening fluid, he also found a jade slip. Han Fei grabbed the jade slip and took a look, only to find that there were strange words written on it, just like the Oracle Bone script. Who could understand them? However, just when Han Fei glanced at the jade slip and was about to throw it away, a message popped up in his mind. Demonization Scripture, Demon Level, Low Quality, Introduction: a semi-finished cultivation method for sea demons. If cultivated, it can turn low-level or ordinary sea demons into sea demon elites, with a success rate as high as 60%. Deduced Art, Demonization Art, Deduction Cost 0/5 million. Note, can be fused. Wow! How can it recognize this? Han Fei was stunned for a moment. But what surprised him even more was not that the demon purification pot could recognize the sea demon characters of the demonization scripture, but that it could be fused. What can be fused? What can it be fused with? First update. Please vote. End of this chapter. Chapter 713. Han Fei wasn't surprised to see a sea-swallowing seashell from the red demon's belly, but he didn't think it was of good quality. He had even taken out a sea-swallowing seashell from a half-mermaid. However, there was nothing good in the sea-swallowing seashell from the half-mermaid, only a lot of spiritual spring water and a few pieces of materials. However, this was the first time that Han Fei had seen the demonization scroll. Han Fei had a guess in his heart. This demonization scroll shouldn't be a good thing. After all, it was only a demon-level, low-quality cultivation method and a semi-finished product. What did this mean? This meant that this red demon was trying to cultivate this method to break through the barrier of level 49 and become a sea demon. But the half-mermaid shouldn't be. Whether in appearance or aptitude, the half-mermaid was much better than the red demons and the inferior manfish. Would he use the demonization scripture? Han Fei felt that the half-mermaid should have cultivated a more advanced cultivation method of the demon race. The reason why they didn't carry it with them was, who the hell would throw a cultivation method on their body? Things like cultivation techniques should be thrown out one by one. Since he had already memorized it, why would he need to keep the cultivation technique itself? Of course, it didn't matter to Han Fei. After all, he only had the true spirit fishing art, which was a common skill. It was useless for others to rob it. It was everywhere. Only the true spirit fishing art above the 6th level was relatively rare. But for the first 5 levels, to be honest, many people would rather change their cultivation method than practice the true spirit fishing art. At this moment, Han Fei saw the word, can be fused again. Previously, he had fused the sea racing art, the flying fish technique, and the shadow swimming art into the 64-dimensional fish dragon dance, a venerable level combat skill. What should the demonization scroll be fused with? However, when Han Fei looked around in his mind, he suddenly froze. Fish transformation technique? Fish transformation technique. Demon level, low quality, introduction. A semi-finished transformation-type combat skill that successfully transforms people into fish with a survival rate of up to 80%. Some human beings will split and turn into demons. Deduction cost 0/30,000,000 deduction result. Unknown remarks. Can be fused. Han Fei frowned. The demonization scroll and the fish transformation technique can be fused? Previously, when the fish transformation technique was deduced to the demon level, low quality, it couldn't be deduced anymore. But now it could actually be fused, and it could be fused with the sea demon's cultivation method. What did this mean? The fish transformation technique turned out to be a sea demon's cultivation method? Han Fei took a deep breath. This discovery was quite significant. He got the fish avatar technique from the fiery mountain in the first secret realm of the level 2 fishery. There should be combat skills and arts left by human beings there, right? Could it be that a long time ago, human beings had already been sea demons? No, the demon level, low-quality fish avatar technique was deduced by me. Han Fei was shocked. Suddenly, he discovered a secret. In the past, countless people had secretly studied the secrets of fish transformation. They thought that their research in this area was already quite deep. But in fact, the more they researched, the more they discovered that they didn't develop the technique of transforming humans into fish, but they developed the cultivation system of sirens as humans. But later, some strong masters discovered this secret and began to block the research of the fish transformation technique. That was why later human masters killed those who studied or even practiced the fish transformation technique. That was why later human masters killed those who studied or even practiced the fish transformation technique. Because in the eyes of those strong masters, those who practiced the fish transformation technique had actually become sea demons. The strong masters no longer regarded these people who practiced the fish avatar technique as human beings. This explained why many people returned to the sea after turning into demons and then fought against the human race. Could it be that the historical battles between sea demons and human beings actually evolved in this way? Han Fei once suspected that there were no sea demons in this world, but someone had opened up this road. Therefore, human beings became sea demons and became a brand new race. If his conjecture was correct, then in fact, the real top masters or heavenly talents among sea demons were actually descendants of human beings. They were just a branch of human beings. Han Fei glanced at the demonization scroll and then at the fish transformation technique. He really wanted to fuse them now to see what would happen. However, the spiritual energy he had now was limited. Once he fused them, it would inevitably consume a lot of spiritual energy. And he was still in the deep sea, and there might be enemies in all directions. It was obviously not cost-effective to fuse them at this time. Even if he fused them, he probably wouldn't practice them. After all, this thing directly turned him into a demon. Originally, Han Fei's original purpose was to let himself have the amazing skill of 72 transformations. But now it was obviously not the case. Perhaps, if he kept deducing, he could perfectly exchange the identity of a human and a sea demon, just like Yang Ruoyun did. But at least not for the time being. Why should I become a demon instead of a human? A fish demon? These thoughts turned quickly in Han Fei's mind. Seeing that it was not useful, Han Fei simply gave up for the time being. On the other hand, why did these red demons appear here? Besides, according to Han Fei's observation just now, this guy was patrolling, right? Could it be that more than 8,000 kilometers away had completely become the territory of sea demons? Whether it was or not, if this red demon was killed here, it might attract other sea demons. His top priority now was to find Xia Shaochan. He couldn't stay in this damn place. Daughter, let's go. This time, Han Fei's speed was not fast, because there were indeed a lot of powerful creatures here. The strength he showed was not high, so he couldn't scare away those powerful creatures at all. Less than half an hour later, Han Fei saw another red demon. This time, it wasn't just the red demon alone. There were also 2 inferior manfish behind it. Han Fei's expression changed slightly. Something seemed to be wrong. It was less than 10,000 kilometers away, right? Why did so many red demons and inferior manfish appear so frequently? Han Fei was waiting. If there was only 1 red demon and 2 inferior manfish, it wouldn't be a big problem. Now, his blood-drinking knife had sealed a spirit in the tsunami jellyfish. As long as he caught them off guard, he could easily kill them. At this time, the advantage of Han Fei's perception range of up to 36 kilometers was extremely obvious at this moment. He had been waiting for the red demon and the inferior manfish on their way. Han Fei's body was fluctuating with the wave. When the red demon and the inferior manfish appeared 800 meters away, Han Fei's extremely dazzling knife instantly burst out. The knife light suddenly appeared 5 meters away in front of the red demon. At that moment, an extremely sharp howl suddenly appeared in the minds of the red demon and the 2 inferior manfish. The red demon's body stiffened. At the moment when it was hit by the knife light, it hadn't come back to its senses. As soon as the knife light slashed out, the red demon was killed. By the way, an inferior manfish was also killed on the spot by Han Fei. There was another inferior manfish, because it was not within the attack range of this knife, so it didn't die. However, it was only 800 meters away. Han Fei rushed out at top speed and covered it in an instant. When Han Fei arrived, the inferior manfish seemed to have just recovered. When it saw Han Fei, its eyes were full of shock and astonishment. Unfortunately, it had no time to fight back and was chopped off by Han Fei. Han Fei searched and found that there was no sea-swallowing seashells in the inferior manfish's body, so they fell directly to the bottom of the sea. The main reason was that the killing of the inferior manfish couldn't be concealed. If this place was really within the detection range of the sea monsters, then sooner or later they would find that the red demon and the inferior manfish were missing. Besides, when the corpses fell to the bottom of the sea, they would be devoured by sea creatures in no time. At that time, they wouldn't even know how they died. This was even more convenient than throwing them in Forge the Universe. Of course, Han Fei kept their harpoons. After all, a harpoon meant that he had killed an inferior manfish. Why didn't he throw away the red demon's body too? Han Fei just wanted to create a false impression. A false impression that the red demon was not dead, but just missing. Less than 10 minutes after killing this red demon, Han Fei had just killed a tooth-grinding shark, and an unexpected situation suddenly appeared in his perception. In his perception, there was a human fishing boat sailing over the sea, seeming to be looking for something. Han Fei just perceived it and found that it was a 6-star powerhouse. Swish! Han Fei immediately went into Forge the Universe. His concealment array and stealth array might not be able to hide from the detection of a 6-star powerhouse, so Forge the Universe was the safest. However, Han Fei was stunned. Did the Scattered Stars Island react so quickly? It's only been less than 8 hours, right? How could they have already sent someone to chase me here? In Forge the Universe, Han Fei frowned. It seemed that this time he went to sea without permission. He would not only face the crisis in the sea but also the investigation from human beings. For a moment, Han Fei was quite stressed. He had to find a way to find Xia Xiaochan as soon as possible. If he guessed right, according to Gong Wenhai's description, someone must have also gone to chase Xia Xiaochan. However, their tracking ability should not be as strong as his. He had Little White to lead the way. How could the Scattered Stars Island chase him? Suddenly, Han Fei's eyes flickered, and he looked at his waist tag. Yes. I have been thousands of kilometers away from the undersea chimney. Why am I still being tracked? Han Fei immediately took off his waist tag, and threw it directly into Forge the Universe. He was a little speechless. Does this waist tag have a tracking effect? If so, Xia Xiaochan is in danger. Second, asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 7:14. High in the Sky. When Su Mo received the order to capture Han Fei, the latest location he learned was the undersea chimney. In fact, it didn't matter whether he knew Han Fei's location or not. Xia Xiaochan disappeared in the undersea chimney, so if Han Fei wanted to find her, his first stop should be the undersea chimney. However, when Su Mo rushed to the undersea chimney, the dense sea creatures gathered together made his blood freeze. Even though he had already become a hidden fisher, he still felt that he couldn't resist them. And although Han Fei was a heavenly talent, he had just become an intermediate hanging fisher, so he couldn't resist them. So Su Mo kept moving forward. Just now, when he noticed that someone was perceiving him, his first reaction was naturally Han Fei. Quickly rushing over, Su Mo found that there was no one here. At this moment, he was flying above the sea in a daze. Huh! How can there be no one? Even if it is a red demon or a half-mermaid, they should at least show up. No, I heard that Han Fei is quite proficient in arrays. Did he use a concealment array and a breath-concealing array? Su Mo clenched the spear in his hand. Facing a heavenly talent, even if he was about to become a hidden fisher, he must not take it lightly. Because according to the known intelligence, Han Fei's peak combat power could fight a peak-level hanging fisher. Besides, according to the intelligence, Han Fei had already killed peak-level hanging fishers, and the peak-level hanging fishers were the best among them. However, after searching every corner of dozens of kilometers, Su Mo still didn't find anything different. After staying for half an hour, Su Mo controlled the fishing boat to leave in doubt. Han Fei was sitting cross-legged in Forge the Universe, rummaging through the sea-swallowing seashell of the red demon. As a result, he found 100 caddies of spirit-awakening fluid in the sea-swallowing seashell of this red demon. Does every red demon carry so much spirit-awakening fluid with them? Han Fei couldn't help but be overjoyed. Although he didn't find anything else, nor did he find any cultivation methods like the demonization scroll, 100 caddies of spirit-awakening fluid was already quite valuable. According to the price of 5,000 points per caddy, killing a red demon would be worth 500,000 points. Was there anything more profitable than this in the world? Even if he refined weapons at a 30% discount in the refining hall every day, it wouldn't be as profitable as killing 2 or 3 red demons in the sea outside the Scattered Stars Island. Could it be that these red demons fought with Xia Shaochan for the undersea chimney? Han Fei guessed that the undersea chimney had just been robbed. These red demons were so close, and they had spirit awakening fluid with them, which meant that these red demons might have robbed the undersea chimney. Otherwise, he really couldn't figure out how he could get 100 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid from a red demon. Moreover, why did it have to be 100 caddies? It didn't seem to be more or less, as if it had been allocated a fixed quota. Han Fei licked his lips. Whatever. Let's drink it first. Since I can't go back anytime soon, I should try my best to improve my strength. This time, Han Fei didn't feed the spirit awakening fluid to Little Black, Little White, or the nine-tailed mantis shrimp. Last time, he had fed them 2,800 kilograms, but he still couldn't push them to level 40. On one hand, it must be because the quality of his contractual spiritual beasts was too high. Therefore, a large amount of spirit awakening fluid was needed to push it forward. On the other hand, he had too many contractual spiritual beasts. Including Little Black and Little White, he had 4. If he divided them evenly, the amount of spirit awakening fluid would inevitably be reduced. Although he could feed all the spirit awakening fluid to a single one, such as Little Black or Little White, however, this would inevitably cause an imbalance in strength. Besides, each contractual spiritual beast had its own abilities, and it wasn't a big deal to just improve one of them. So Han Fei began to pour it into his mouth crazily. The spirit awakening fluid tasted a little sweet and sour. For some reason, Han Fei always felt that he was drinking Yakult. When Han Fei swallowed the spirit awakening fluid, the black light in his mind appeared again. Han Fei immediately stopped swallowing, closed his eyes, and felt it. What was that? Where did the black light come from? Han Fei had always wondered why there was light in black. This was very strange, but that thing just flashed away, and he couldn't find it at all. Seeing no special reaction, Han Fei continued to swallow. His upper limit of spiritual energy began to decrease a little, from 11,228 points to 11,001 points. After swallowing more than 50 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid, his spiritual energy began to slowly increase again. When Han Fei drank up 200 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid, his upper limit of spiritual energy had become 11,608 points. His level was still 44, the same as before. His upper limit of spiritual energy was only less than 400 points more than at the beginning. Han Fei frowned. The effect of this thing is not very good. 200 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid, 1,000,000 points of credit. Ordinary people might not be able to save so many points even if they worked hard for 4 years. He drank it up in a moment, but his strength didn't improve much. Han Fei moved a little, and his physique seemed to be a little better, but he felt that the improvement was very small. Wait, I saw that Chao Chiu seemed to improve quite fast after drinking the spirit awakening fluid. Why am I so slow? Han Fei was confused. It had only been a little more than half an hour. He didn't know if the person outside had left or not. Forget it, he'd better wait a little longer. It was important to find Xia Shaochan, but once he was targeted, it would be more of a waste of time. Han Fei understood this. After chewing a spiritual fruit, Han Fei found that after drinking the spirit awakening fluid, the spiritual energy in his body seemed to be no longer conflicting, so he immediately ate a dozen more. When he felt that the spiritual energy in his body began to become a little unstable, he stopped eating. At this moment it had been almost half an hour. With a thought, Han Fei appeared in the sea again. In the sea, a snake-patterned fish was startled by the sudden appearance of Han Fei and quickly fled. Han Fei didn't care about it. He perceived that there was no one in the sky, nor did he perceive the appearance of any red demons or inferior manfish. Han Fei called out Little Black and Little White again. "Daughter, let's keep looking." After a full 2 hours, the sky was already dark and the moonlight was shining on the sea. In the deep sea, Han Fei walked and fought. Suddenly, Little White rushed in a certain direction. Han Fei's eyes lit up. Did I find it? After a while, the first thing that came into Han Fei's perception was the wreckage of a big ship. The big ship was half buried in the seabed mud, and the other half was exposed. Even so, it didn't look small. It looked like a cruise ship, much larger than ordinary fishing boat. When Han Fei saw the cruise ship, he rushed to it as fast as he could. Han Fei thought that this must be the way the hexagon starfish led him. He put Xia Shaochan into its door, then found a place to search for her. It must be like this. However, Han Fei suddenly braked after rushing a kilometer away. Han Fei! Han Fei suddenly stopped and his face changed slightly. He perceived the half-mermaids. Besides, not only did he perceive the half-mermaids, but it seemed that the half-mermaids inside also perceived him. Swish, swish, swish. At this moment, Han Fei felt his blood freeze. In the shipwreck, 8 inferior manfish, 5 red demons, and 2 half-mermaids suddenly emerged. At this moment, the leading half-mermaid directly led the crowd and rushed in Han Fei's direction. Han Fei glanced at Little White. I told you to look for Xia Shaochan. Why did you bring her to the sea demon's nest? But then, Han Fei found that something was wrong. Little White's perception couldn't be wrong. Was Xia Shaochan caught by these sea demons? Unfortunately, he had no time to check what was in the shipwreck now. 15 sea demons suddenly emerged. No matter how arrogant he was, he didn't dare to stay. Immediately, Han Fei put away Little Black and Little White, attached to Little Gold, activated the 64-dimensional fish dragon dance, and rushed away. Han Fei was not running for his life. If Xia Shaochan was caught by these sea demons, the only way to save her was to kill these sea demons first. If there were only 2 or 3 red demons, Han Fei thought he could catch them off guard and kill 1 or 2 first. But now the other party had 2 half-mermaids and 5 red demons. If he guessed right, these red demons were all level 49 creatures. They should be at the same level as the 2 he had killed before. If they were not peak-level red demons, he wouldn't be afraid. But once they were peak-level red demons, their combat power couldn't be underestimated. Even if the red demons were much weaker than the half-mermaids, they were still comparable to ordinary peak-level hanging fishers. If he fought against 5 peak-level hanging fishers alone, even if he could win, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. While running, Han Fei took out the enhanced version of Poison God. There was no need to set up an array or use the infinity water at all, because those sea demons were chasing him. Therefore, their course of action was the same as his. He only needed to control the seawater, slightly control the enhanced version of Poison God to spread slowly, and they would naturally hit him. Han Fei didn't hesitate at all. He directly grabbed a kilogram of Poison God and laid it on his course of action. At the same time, he slowed down. After 2 minutes, Han Fei sensed that those sea demons passed through that area without any defense at all, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3rd update. Asking for votes. It's already the 3rd update today. It's too hard for me. I just woke up and saw that it was already past 6, so I immediately rushed over to update. It's really busy during the new year and I really don't have much time to write, so I've been writing at night. Reminder: be surprised and pay attention to rumors, beware of profiteers who raise prices, beware of scammers who make money from national disasters. End of this chapter. Chapter 7:15. In the process of escaping, Han Fei's speed was getting slower and slower. Han Fei couldn't help sighing. Chao Chiu, Chao Chiu. Don't be fooled by this fellow's foolishness. He was an extremely dangerous fellow. Something like the Poison God was simply a bug. If used well, it could greatly guarantee his survivability. When the sea demons passed through the area of the Poison God for less than 10 seconds, Han Fei stopped running. The distance between the 2 sides was only about 2,000 meters. When the 2 leading half-mermaids felt that something was wrong with them, Han Fei had already started to chase them. However, because the speed of the half-mermaids and red demons was too fast just now. Han Fei didn't feel anything wrong. Therefore, although he felt uncomfortable at this moment, he didn't find anything wrong with him. However, when Han Fei had turned around and rushed towards them, the two half-mermaids suddenly changed their expressions. At this time, if they still didn't find something wrong, they would be stupid. Hiss! Roar! Yah! The two half-mermaids began to roar. But looking back, except for the 5 red demons, the inferior manfish had begun to hold their stomachs and vomit. While vomiting, they were a little manic and bombarded randomly. The two half-mermaids tried to run, but after running less than a kilometer, they felt that their stomachs were about to explode. It was not that they didn't want to run, but that they couldn't run at all. This poison was really terrifying. In such a short time, it had already drained a lot of their combat power. Roar! Accompanied by a roar, Han Fei sneered. None of you can escape today. The distance of more than 2,000 meters was covered in the blink of an eye. Han Fei had already used the draw technique, and a terrifying knife light shot out and appeared in front of one of the half-mermaids in an instant. Roar! White flames suddenly enveloped the half-mermaid. 3 sets of battle suits and a big shield flew out of this guy's body in a row. Crack, crack, crack. Clang. Han Fei was a little stunned. Why did this half-mermaid react so quickly? Wasn't it already deeply poisoned? However, although this half-mermaid blocked Han Fei's draw technique, it was still sent flying by Han Fei's knife and began to vomit and have diarrhea. The other half-mermaid also burst into white flames and took out a golden harpoon. Han Fei's pupils constricted. A top half-mermaid heavenly talent? Han Fei didn't expect to see a half-mermaid of this level here. However, even though he was a prodigy, an unknown substance began to flow out of his mouth. However, this half-mermaid seemed to still be able to fight. The golden harpoon in his hand burst the seawater. Spiritual energy and demonic chi surged out of the sea like dragons, and he dashed at Han Fei at the fastest speed. Whoosh! Han Fei put on a semi-divine battle suit, and the semi-divine golden seal in his hand turned into a giant seal phantom, slapping at this guy. I don't believe that you can still maintain your peak strength after swallowing the enhanced version of Poison God. Clang! The seawater exploded. Within a radius of 1,000 meters, raging waves surged and rippled. Han Fei was sent flying by the blow, and a trace of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. This time, he deliberately did not use the majestic mystic spell. It turned out that the strength of this half-mermaid heavenly talent had been reduced by at least 30% to 40%. Otherwise, he wouldn't have only been slightly injured by the opponent's full-strength blow. Tell me, where are the people you caught? Han Fei stomped and rushed at it again. The phantom of the big seal was in the air, the seawater was rolling on both sides, and the spiritual energy was like fire. In the dark bottom of the sea, there was a dazzling light. Kill. This half-mermaid only said one word, and a huge scorpion, with a terrifying speed, pierced the void with its tail and directly stabbed at him. Han Fei didn't expect the other party to have this move, so he directly blocked it with his battle suit. Bam! Han Fei was directly stabbed into the bottom of the sea. On the seabed, smoke and dust billowed, and it was turbid. The half-mermaid was very shocked. The battle suit on this person was so strong that it could resist his full-strength blow head-on. Wasn't it comparable to his golden battle suit? Puff! The half-mermaid only felt that his internal organs were rolling, and he couldn't control his body anymore. In the next second, a knife light suddenly appeared in front of him and swept past his neck. He activated the amulet, but it couldn't stop Han Fei. After all, this half-mermaid had no combat power left. The half-mermaid was extremely aggrieved at the moment of death. It was not that he couldn't fight, but that his combat power was declining every second. After 2 consecutive full-strength blows, he had no more power to fight. Han Fei hacked this half-mermaid with a knife. pulled off the golden battle suit and golden harpoon, and threw them into Forge the Universe. With a thought, the infinity water came out. If this half-mermaid had an immortal seal, he would continue to poison him until he died. Not far away, the half-mermaid who had just been blown away summoned his companion's spirit and was taking him to escape. Sacrificing punch. Han Fei didn't hold back anymore. The half-mermaid was poisoned, but the opponent's companion spirit was still intact, so he had to kill it. He punched out, and the scarlet fist mark shot out a dazzling light on the bottom of the sea with an indomitable momentum. Han Fei didn't pay any more attention to the half-mermaid because 5 red lights appeared in his vision. Majestic mystic spell. Han Fei took a mouthful of candle dragon blood, stepped on the coiled turtle array, and blocked the attack with the golden seal. He had recognized that the red spear was the life spear of a red demon, which was equivalent to a life-risking blow. Han Fei had already experienced the life-risking blow of a level 49 creature when he was on the skeleton shore. At that time, if it hadn't been for Chao Chio's life-saving fist mark that offset most of the power of the red spear, he might not have been able to easily block it. This time, there were a total of 5 life spears. It could be seen that these red demons knew they couldn't resist it anymore and tried their best to keep Han Fei here. Overlord. The semi-divine golden seal was bombarded out and smashed directly to the bottom of the sea. It was a pity that his seal combat skills were not good enough, so he couldn't block the life spear with a semi-divine weapon. At this time, the Overlord appeared, carrying a large shield in his hand, and 9 defense arrays burst out on the shield in a row. Crack! 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 After breaking 7 arrays in a row, the 5 life spears were blocked. The attack of the red demons was over. Han Fei's attack had arrived, and the draw technique had swept over, directly wiping out 2 red demons. On the other side, the half-mermaid was hit by the sacrificing punch, leaving a mark of 1 kilometer long on the seabed, causing smoke and dust to billow on the seabed. Han Fei waved his hand and the golden seal returned to his hand with a swish. Then, Han Fei turned around and smashed it at a red demon who was still trying to escape. At the same time, Han Fei leaned forward and 200 blue sea wandering dragon daggers pierced out of his body, directly encircling the 2 red demons who had vomited so much that they couldn't even be recognized. Han Fei's mouth bulged as if he was rinsing his mouth, and then he spat out a large mouthful of blood. All of this took less than 5 breaths of time. And the infinity water was shaking. As soon as the half-mermaid heavenly talent came out, it was invaded by the strengthened version of Poison God, and was no longer a threat. Fortunately, this half-mermaid heavenly talent didn't use the dying strike. Otherwise, he would have wasted a little more time. After dozens of minutes after killing this half-mermaid, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp came out, and the 9-star chain directly buckled the red demons and half-mermaids that had been killed by him and quickly rushed to the inferior manfish ahead. In his perception, those inferior manfish were still 10 kilometers away. Their speed was not as fast as the half-mermaids and red demons. Besides, their poison resistance was not high at first glance. So, before they got here, they had already collapsed. When Han Fei arrived, only 3 of these inferior manfish were still resisting. The others had completely collapsed, their skin had cracked, and they were vomiting everything out of their mouth. With a thought in Han Fei's mind, the surrounding seawater rolled up, and the infinity water burst out, sweeping them away. In fact, he didn't particularly hate sea demons. There was no need to torture them. He could just kill them. At this point, all 15 sea demons were killed. Han Fei found a total of 7 sea-swallowing seashells. Those inferior manfish didn't even have a sea-swallowing seashell. Han Fei directly took their harpoons, as well as a set of golden battlesuits and golden harpoons. As for their corpses, Han Fei didn't want any of these poison ones. Otherwise, what would he do? Pollute Forge the Universe? Han Fei didn't look at any of the 7 sea-swallowing seashells. He swallowed several mouthfuls of candle dragon blood and quickly rushed in the direction of the shipwreck. Now it was a race against time. The battle here just now caused a lot of noise. Just a few hits on the seabed caused a lot of vibrations, not to mention the vibrations caused by him and the half-mermaid heavenly talent fighting with all their strength twice. After a moment, Han Fei's perception swept every corner of the shipwreck, but he didn't find anyone. Han Fei went in, rummaged around, and found a rotten hall in the shipwreck where the sea demons were just now. Here there were some half-eaten big fish, crabs, and other things. Obviously, they had eaten here just now. Sea demons are still sea demons. Even though they have cultivated and turned into a human form, they still eat raw food. Han Fei's face was full of disgust. There were no other creatures here. Han Fei transmitted his voice to the entire shipwreck. Master Hexagon Starfish, did you hear that? Did you use some kind of formation to hide yourself? I'm Han Fei, Master Hexagon Starfish? After calling a few times, Han Fei found that no one responded. With a flash between his eyebrows, Little Black and Little White appeared. Han Fei asked, "Daughter, is this the place? Your mommy isn't here? Are you in the wrong place?" Little White swam out of the ship. As soon as she swam out, Han Fei suddenly put away Little Black and Little White. Nine Tails attached to him, with the golden seal in his left hand and the blood-drinking knife in his right hand. He was wearing a golden battle suit and the 6 spirit armor. It's you. First update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 7:16. Han Fei was caught up in the end. He thought this 6-star powerhouse had run far away, but he didn't expect that he would appear again. Thinking about it, it must have been attracted by the battle just now. Suemo didn't directly enter the sea. To be honest, he was really shocked. He had passed by this place just now. However, he sensed a group of sea demons, including a half-mermaid. As a peak-level hanging fisher, he didn't dare to fight them. However, when he came back, the sea demons were all gone. When he arrived at the place of the battle, he was dumbfounded. 2 half-mermaids, 5 red demons, and 8 inferior manfish, none of them survived. They were all killed. At first, he thought it was done by the people who were also sent to arrest Han Fei. However, when he entered the sea, he found that these sea demons were all poisoned. Their corpses were lying in the sea and no creatures would eat them. At that time, he remembered the information that Han Fei was good at using poison. However, he met him at this moment. Han Fei stood at the bow of the ship, looking indifferent and saying, "Do you want to catch me?" Suemo sweated. Han Fei, it's not your business to find Xia Shaochan alone. As early as the moment Xia Shaochan disappeared, someone had already gone to find her. You'd better go back with me. It's a big taboo to go to sea without permission. However, if you kill so many sea demons at once, you will definitely make up for your mistake. At that time, I can also speak for you. Han Fei sneered. Make up for my mistake? Heh. Are they going to find Xia Shaochan or catch her? Just based on the words of the 2 people from the Dark Hunter Legion? Suemo frowned. Han Fei went to sea without permission. I'm afraid he doesn't plan to go back for the time being. Suemo said, no matter what the result is, won't we know when Xia Shaochan goes back? Han Fei said lightly, their ability to find people is not as good as mine. Suemo was stunned. No, some hidden fishers went to look for her. Han Fei trembled slightly and then said angrily, F***CK. Does a hidden fisher want to kill Xia Shaochan? Suemo quickly shut up. He made a mistake and said, no, they're just looking for someone. How can a hidden fisher attack Xia Shaochan? Han Fei smiled contemptuously. I'll find my own girlfriend. I don't trust others. So, do you want to fight or let me go? Suemo swallowed slightly. If it was before, he would definitely dare to fight. However, after seeing the death of those sea demons just now, he would never fight Han Fei. This boy was only an intermediate hanging fisher. However, this strength was ridiculously strong. He had fought 15 people alone, and he had taken care of all of them. More importantly, he looked completely fine. How was he supposed to fight? Suemo thought for a long time but couldn't think of an answer. It wasn't good to leave, but it wasn't good to stay either. Han Fei said, "Just say that you've never met me. Even if I go back in the future, I won't tell anyone. I'm leaving. If I find you again, I won't rest until you die." Suemo gritted his teeth, took off the fishing boat, and flew away. Are you kidding me? With the strength of this bastard, how could a hanging fisher defeat him? At least a hidden fisher should come to take him, right? Suemo could feel Han Fei's fighting spirit. If he really fought, he would probably be the one to die. He didn't want to do such a thankless thing anymore. At least Suemo could be sure that Han Fei was only guilty of going to sea without permission. However, Han Fei definitely didn't betray the human race. Otherwise, how could he have killed 15 sea demons in one breath? Thinking of those sea demons, Suemo decided to take all the bodies back. Then, he would report to the higher-ups that he didn't find the person but found the battlefield. This fully proved that Han Fei was so strong that even if he found the body, he wouldn't be able to bring it back. This also indirectly proved that Han Fei didn't betray the human race but was simply looking for someone. In this way, the higher-ups wouldn't send him, a peak-level hanging fisher, to look for him. As for whether Han Fei could come back or not, it had nothing to do with him. I'm staying comfortably on the Scattered Stars Island. Isn't it nice? It wasn't until Suemo left his perception range that Han Fei secretly breathed a sigh of relief. A peak-level hanging fisher with 6 stars represented extremely strong strength. If this Sumo's strength was average, he would at most have a 5-star rank. It would be impossible for him to reach 6 stars. If he had to fight him, it would probably take him a lot of effort. After all, he had just experienced a big battle and was a little tired. His internal injuries hadn't fully healed, and his combat power was probably only about 70% of his peak state. Seeing Suemo leave, Han Fei didn't immediately release Little Black and Little White, although Little White seemed to want to continue the search. Han Fei knew that now was not the time to search. He had just killed a half-mermaid heavenly talent. That guy definitely had a life tablet. How could no one notice that a half-mermaid with a semi-divine weapon was killed? If Han Fei thought that no sea demons would come to investigate, he would really think that the sea demons were idiots. So, after thinking about it, Han Fei summoned Little Black and Little White. "Daughter, point me in a direction." Little White turned for a while and aimed at Han Fei's left. With a flash between Han Fei's eyebrows, he put away Little Black and Little White, rushed out of the sea, took out the Wind God boat, and flew more than 3,000 kilometers away. Then, he plunged into the water. With a flash, he entered Forge the Universe. Han Fei needed to recover. He cast a divine healing technique on himself and began to rummage through the 7 sea-swallowing seashells he had just obtained. First of all, in the sea-swallowing seashells of the 5 red demons, there were 100 kilograms of spirit-awakening fluid each. Han Fei had already guessed this in his heart, so he was not surprised at all. At the same time, Han Fei found a demonization scroll, which was almost exactly the same as the previous one. Thinking about it, this thing should be a common commodity in the Sea Demon Society, not something that could be hoarded. In addition, in the sea-swallowing seashells of these red demons, he found a new sea demon combat skill called Basic Combat Skills of Mermaids. However, the display showed that the quality was spirit level. Han Fei didn't even look at it and threw it aside. However, to Han Fei's surprise, Han Fei found some high-quality pearls in the sea-swallowing seashells of these red demons. There were not many of these pearls. Including the 2 red demons he had killed before, there were less than 100,000 in total. Would they also use high-quality pearls as currency? Han Fei pondered for a while. Sea demons were born in the sea, so their ability to dig out pearls should be much better than that of humans. If high-quality pearls were currency, then these sea demons must be very rich. Unless, for some reason, they didn't take their belongings with them. As for the rest, they were all ultra-quality materials, no special materials. Han Fei didn't check them one by one and directly threw them into Forge the Universe. When there was enough spiritual energy in the future, he would return to the Scattered Stars Island, and the misunderstanding would be resolved. Then he would go to the refining hall and earn a lot of points. After checking the sea-swallowing seashells of the red demons, the rest were naturally the sea-swallowing seashells of the two half-mermaid. Among them, in the sea-swallowing seashells of the heavenly talent half-mermaid, Han Fei found 1,000 kilograms of spirit-awakening fluid and 2 sea demon combat skills. One was called Sea Spirit 3 consecutive stabs, demon level, mid-quality. The other was called Sea King's Secret Technique, heaven level, mid-quality. Han Fei was not interested in the Sea Spirit 3 consecutive stabs, mainly because its level was too low and he didn't know how to practice it. But the other Sea King's Secret Technique attracted Han Fei's attention. The Sea Demon's secret technique was not low level, so Han Fei naturally wanted to check it out. However, when he saw it, Han Fei frowned. It turned out that this so-called Sea King's secret technique was the reason why these half-mermaids burned with white flames when they fought. They actually used this method to summon the so-called Sea King's will. Therefore, the white flames were not flames at all, but a kind of will that came from nowhere. The sea demons believed that this kind of will was a gift from the king of the Sea Clan. After they prayed, the king in the sea gave them power. Han Fei was speechless. This secret technique could actually provide more than twice the combat power of the sea demons. And the side effects were surprisingly small, a bit similar to his majestic mystic spell. Just eating more and replenishing more energy could make up for it. No wonder any random half-mermaid would burn with white flames. It turns out that this thing is so powerful. But no matter how powerful it was, Han Fei found that it didn't seem to be useful to him. After all, this was aimed at the special body structure of the half-mermaid. In addition to the Sea King's secret technique, Han Ran was attracted by the more than 3,800 caddies of spirit-awakening fluid, 1,200 caddies of spiritual spring, more than 30 mid-quality spiritual stones, and 12 high-quality spiritual stones. Wow! So rich? Han Fei swore that this was definitely the richest half-mermaid he had ever met. Han Fei's eyes were filled with jealousy when he saw this wealth. Why didn't the half-mermaid heavenly talents I met before have such wealth? Han Fei thought about it. It made sense. Before, they were either playing in competitions or exploring secret realms. Who would carry such wealth with them? So far, Han Fei had obtained 5,300 caddies of spirit-awakening fluid, 2,100 caddies of spiritual spring, 33 mid-quality spiritual stones, 12 high-quality spiritual stones, and 120,000 high-quality pearls. And this was what he got in less than 5 hours at sea. Sure enough, the sea is better. Second update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter.